Morning, everybody. Welcome to the October 15th, 2019 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. And today we're very blessed to have Pastor Alan Folsom from the Burnt Hickory Baptist Church to lead us in opening prayer. And then Officer Ott will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So those who are willing and able, please stand. Morning and welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's always an honor to serve you, and Burnt Hickory Baptist Church keeps you in our prayers monthly. So we appreciate the opportunity. Father, we're thankful for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for what's happening in Cobb County. We're thankful that we can see your hand at work in people's lives and in the government. Father, I pray for this meeting today. I thank you for this Board of Commissioners. I pray that you give them wisdom and discernment today as they make decisions. Father, that you'll help them to be, as Prophet Micah said, that you will help them to love, to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with you, our God. So, Father, just pray that you help them to be good stewards of the responsibility you've given them. And, Father, just help them to make the wisest decision possible as they serve the people and the businesses of Cobb County. I pray for these that have made petitions before this board, Father, that you'll give them wisdom and understanding on the decision that is made. And Father, just pray that you continue to bless Cobb County as it serves you and serves the people. For us in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Officer Ott. Okay. John, I believe the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing will be conducted with the following process and procedure. Each case will be called in numerical order. When each case is called, would the applicant please stand and raise their hand to show that they are in attendance? Then we're going to call to see if anyone here is opposed to any of the cases. We would ask that anyone opposed, please also stand and raise your hand so they can be counted for the official record. After recognizing the applicant and any opposition, they will be asked to come forward to be sworn in so they can present testimony to the board. The applicant will testify first, and then the opposition, if any, would testify second. It's important to note that each side only gets 10 minutes to state their case or concerns. There's not a rebuttal process, so please convey all your information to the board within your 10-minute time period. Additionally, if there's more than one person wishing to speak on a case, you may want to coordinate with each other about what you're going to talk about, because each side only gets 10 minutes, and you don't want to cover the same information twice. After both sides have had their 10-minute presentation period, the board will start to discuss the case at hand. From the discussion, they may ask one or more speakers to come back to the front for questions or comments. And after that, the board will make a decision to either approve, deny, continue, or hold the matter at hand. There are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been withdrawn and would not be heard today. Excuse me. First case is rezoning case Z60 of 2019, Liberty Investment Properties Incorporated. This case was withdrawn without prejudice by staff, so Z60 of 2019 will not be heard today. SLEP 11 of 2019, Milestone Hotel Management. This case was withdrawn without prejudice by staff and will not be heard today. SLEP 13 of 2019, Liberty Investment Properties Incorporated. This case was withdrawn without prejudice by staff, so SLEP 13 of 2019 will not be heard today. And lastly, other business number 35 of 2019, Pogue Shopping Centers LLC. This case was withdrawn without prejudice by staff, so other business number 35 will not be heard today. Additionally, there are a number of cases on today's printed agenda which have been held or continued and will not be heard today. First case is rezoning case Z71 of 2018, Pope and Land Enterprises Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff into the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z71 of 2019, or excuse me, of 2018 will not be heard today. SLEP 13 of 2018, Kennesaw Jewish Center Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff until the November 19th, 2019 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So SLUP 13 of 2018 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z43 of 2019, Embry Development Company LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z43 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z45 of 2019, WS Hotels LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z45 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z52 of 2019, WLM Holdings LLC. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z52 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z53 of 2019, Land Development Associates LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z53 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z56 of 2019, KO Management Incorporated. This case was held by the Planning Commission until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z56 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z59 of 2019, Davis Enterprises LLC. This case was continued by the Planning Commission until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z59 of 2019 will not be heard today. Rezoning case Z61 of 2019, Vasco Properties LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z61 will not be heard today. And just as a side note, the applicant did submit a letter to withdraw this. So on next month's agenda, this case will be shown as withdrawn without prejudice. Rezoning case Z62 of 2019, Embry Development Company LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So Z62 of 2019 will not be heard today. SLEP 4 of 2019, A1 Auto Cores LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So SLEP 4 of 2019 will not be heard today. SLEP 12 of 2019, Gunnison Tree Specialists Incorporated. This case was continued by the staff till the November 5th, 2019 Planning Commission zoning hearing. So SLEP 12 of 2019 will not be heard today. Other business number 60, WLM Holdings LLC. This case was continued by the staff until the November 19th, 2019 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business number 60 will not be heard today. And finally, other business number 61, Sergeant Patel. This case was continued by the staff until the November 19th, 2019 Board of Commissioners zoning hearing. So other business number 61 will not be heard today. I would like to ask the people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on your cell phones. When they ring, they do interfere with the broadcast and presentations. Any person wishing to speak before the Board of Commissioners must file a campaign contribution disclosure statement. If within 2 years immediately preceding the filing of a rezoning application, a campaign contribution totaling $250 or more was made to a current member of the Board of Commissioners. Additional information about this requirement is located on the table in the back of the room. I want to remind applicants, opposition, or any interested party that information is due to this board the Wednesday prior to this hearing. Any information submitted after the Wednesday due date may or may not be considered by the board at their discretion. And anyone participating in today's hearing who plans on presenting a video, PowerPoint, or other visual document should have presented those materials to our communications department for virus security screening. These items can also be emailed to communications staff at presentations@cobbcounty.org. The screening should be finished before the start of the hearing. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda.
It's all yours.
Thank you. And just as a matter of housekeeping, there are 2 cases on today's printed agenda for consent that have to be pulled off because they have issues that have to be heard. So we're going to pull off Z57 of 2019, Eric Klein and Rita Klein off consent. We're going to have a hearing on that today. And also LEP 20 of 2019, Open Arms Group Home. That case will be pulled off today's consent agenda. We're going to have a hearing on that for some of the public today.
Excuse me, John, may I address that with the applicant for LUP 20?
Excuse me?
May I address that with the applicant for LUP 20?
Sure.
The applicant for LUP 20, are you here today for Open Arms? Yes, this morning, right before the hearing, we heard from someone that lives along the roadway that they're in opposition to the matter. That wasn't brought to my attention until, again, this morning. So I wanted to let you know that that's why it's being pulled off the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. First case on consent.
Excuse
Excuse me, sir, sorry.
Sir.
Sir, I'm sorry, sir. It's not being pulled off of
Let's do,
today's hearing. It's being pulled off the consent agenda. So we will actually have a full hearing on it. And we try to encourage people to speak with those in opposition if your matter was on consent. For those who are here in opposition to LUP 20, may you raise your hand? Yes, would you be willing to speak to the applicant so he's at least aware of your concerns prior to the hearing? No, you prefer not to address him directly? Okay, so we'll address it during the hearing. Okay.
Okay. Okay, first case on consent is rezoning case Z58. Robert Hagg requests a rezoning from R80 to R40 for the purpose of a single-family house in land lot 1002 of the 17th district. The property is located on the east side of Timberland Drive, north of Beechwood Drive. The planning commission recommends approval to the R40 zoning district, subject to the following conditions. Number one, final site plan and elevations to be approved by the district commissioner. Number two, proposed garage to be architecturally compatible with the existing house. Number three, single-family use only. Number four, variances listed in the zoning comment section. Number five, structure not to exceed 1,196 square feet, which is 23 by 26 in a two-story building. Number six, structure may not be used for a residence or a guest house. Number seven, no construction, parking, or equipment or materials loading or unloading on Timberland Drive. Number eight, construction and land development work shall be limited to the following hours: Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and no work on Sundays or holidays. Number nine, the district commissioner shall make minor modifications to approved zoning, except for those that A, increase the density of a project, B, reduce the size or composition of an improved buffer, C, relocate a structure closer to a property line, D, increase the height of a building, E, change an access location to a different roadway, F, would be in direct conflict or in direct contradiction to the Cobb County Code of Ordinances or a zoning ordinance, G, require variance waiving applicable regulations of the Cobb County zoning ordinance. Number 10, Stormwater Management Division comments and recommendations, and 11, Department of Transportation comments and recommendations. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed? Rezoning case Z58. Let the record show there's no one opposed.
I just have one question. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Ott for addressing my concerns yesterday. The other thing, I was noticing that a lot of these lots are apparently already R40. Have we thought about going during the annual comprehensive plan review?
Yeah, the future land use map shows very low density residential in the entire neighborhood, which R40 and R80 fit into. The problem is that the back lots are all just happen to be zoned R80, and that's not as easy to go in and change as would be the
Okay.
land use map.
Just an observation, but I
No, but
appreciate it.
I mean, and as you know, this is my neighborhood, and it just, the back part of it, for whatever reason, when they put zoning in place in 1972, they put the back lots at R80, even though they're only 1 acre lots.
All right. Okay,
So-
thanks.
So they're just gonna kind of come in one at a time when they want to do something different.
Okay, moving into land use permits on the consent agenda. LUP 21, Young S. Utash requests a land use permit for the purpose of bridal gown sales alterations in land lot 126 of the 20th district. The property is located on the east side of Kimberly Road, north of Old 41 Highway. The planning commission recommends approval for 12 months, subject to the following conditions. Maximum number of truck deliveries is 2 per day. Maximum number of customers is to be 3 per day and by appointment only. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 21? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
And this is a new business, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And moving into special land use permits on the consent agenda, SLEP 14, Dobbins Mill Phase 2 LLC requests a special land use permit for the purpose of a used auto sales business in the interior of Building 8 only in land lot 283 of the 17th district. The property is located on the terminus of Dunn Avenue, west of West Atlanta Street. The planning commission recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Site plan received by the zoning division on July 5th, 2019, with the district commissioner approving minor modifications. Vehicles to be inside Building 8 only. No junk or inoperative vehicles to be kept on site. No outdoor storage. No parking or unloading vehicles in the right-of-way. And any vehicle repairs to be done inside the building. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to SLUP 14? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And moving into other business items on today's consent agenda is other business item number 57 of 2019 is to consider a stipulation amendment for A1 mini storage regarding rezoning application 386 of 1985 for property located on the south side of Riverside Parkway and on the north side of I-20 and land lot 591 of the 18th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Maximum of 5 rental trucks on the property for lease at any one time. District Commissioner approved the locations of where the 5 rental trucks are parked, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment to remain in effect. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here.
Excuse me, Chairman, I'd like for the applicant to approach. Thank you. You may approach, please.
Okay, and while the applicant's approaching, is there anyone here opposed to other business number 57? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for your patience at the last hearing and for meeting with me prior to this hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
When you and I met, we talked about some conditions to be applied to the property, and I wanted to read into the record, but just wanted to also
ma'am.
ensure that you were in agreement before they were included in the record.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Number 1, 2 U-Haul vans are permitted to be parked along Riverside Parkway in front of the office.
Yes, ma'am.
All other U-Haul vehicles are to be parked behind the gate on hardened surface.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 2, parking along Riverside Parkway is to be striped. And I believe you already
Already
taken
taken
steps
care
to
of it.
take care of that since
Yes,
we
ma'am.
spoke, so thank you for that. Number 3, the fencing west of the office is to be repaired or replaced. I
In the
believe you already
process,
took
we're
care of
doing
that
that.
since we spoke. Number 4, the gate is to remain in operable condition at all times.
Yes,
And-
ma'am.
yeah. And number 5, the front building office is to be to be painted and kept in good repair. And I believe you've already
We are on it.
taken that since,
Doing
taken
it
care of
right
that
now.
since we've spoken. Okay. Number 6, the parking lot along Riverside Parkway and in front of the office is to be sealed within 6 months of the application.
Correct.
Okay. And finally, no U-Haul signage is, U-Haul signage must be approved by District Commissioner and by County Code. I know you stated that you weren't expecting to have U-Haul signage there, but just in case in the future, if that was ever considered, that should be signed off by the Commissioner and it should abide by County Code.
Understood.
Okay.
We won't put any adage.
Very good. Those are all the conditions I want to add.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina.
You're welcome. Thank you. Are you okay? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's it.
Other business item number 59 is to consider a stipulation amendment for Meritage Homes of Georgia Incorporated regarding rezoning application Z44 of 2017 for property located at the southwest intersection of Floyd Road and Glory Road and at the northern terminus of Green Valley Road in land lots 29, 30, 1073, and 1074, and 1147 of the 17th and 19th districts. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Letter of agreeable conditions from Mr. Adam Rosen dated October 8, 2019, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment to remain in effect. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 59? We got one person,
Okay.
so we'll pull that one off consent.
Sir, have you been able to address your concerns with the applicant? No, I haven't. Would you be willing to do that prior to the hearing? Sure. Okay, thank you. Adam Rosen is the attorney for the applicant there.
Okay. So we'll pull that one off consent.
Thank you.
Other business item number 62 of 2019 is to consider a site plan amendment for Providence NLS LLC and Providence 203 LLC regarding rezoning application Z37 of 2003 for property located on the north side of Veterans Memorial Highway at Queens Mill Road and land lots 165 and 166 of the 18th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. The District Commissioner approved the final site plan, water and sewer comments, and stormwater management comments. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 62? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Did you want to add that later?
Yes. Thank you, John. I would like to add a stipulation letter from Smith, Gamble, and Russell from Attorney Alexander Brock dated October 14th to this other business application, and it has been reviewed by the Mableton Improvement Coalition, who stated that they were in support of the stipulations.
Okay, thank you. And finally, other business item number 63 of 2019 is to consider a site plan amendment for Cat Alvarez regarding rezoning application Z74 of 2014 for property located on the south side of Shalford Road, east of Sandy Plains Road and land lot 387 of the 16th District. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Proposed plans contained in the other business packet, and all previous stipulations not in conflict with this amendment to remain in effect. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to other business item number 63? Let the record show there's no one opposed.
Mr. Burrow has a comment, John.
Okay,
Yes. We received the Architectural Control Committee's approval yesterday, and there's one minor issue on color that the applicant and they are trying to work out. So I'd like to add a stipulation that the final architecture be reviewed by the Architectural Control Committee and approval by the District Commissioner.
okay, got it.
And you're good with that, applicant is good with that. Thanks. And does the clerk have what was submitted from the applicant?
And that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Okay, with that, I make a motion that we approve. Oh. You're everywhere.
I didn't get my workout in this morning, but I see I didn't have to. There seems to be agreement on the other business item for Meritage,
Okay,
and that the resident that came still has the continuing DOT concern about putting the traffic light. And I have been working with Rob on having that addressed. I just don't think this other business item is directly connected to that. This is pertaining to the elevations. But just know, we did have the hearing where a majority of the board was in support of us moving forward with that traffic light.
right,
So
right.
we're just been in communication with Rob and DOT to move that forward.
So are we putting 59 back on?
We'll put 50 back on as read in.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, sounds good. That's good, great, thank you. Do you want to go back out there again? Come back?
You know, I might as well do another lap or two, you know. For right now, I'm good.
Make sure your Fitbit's working. Okay, with that, now I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as revised.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question.
All right.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. All those folks are on consent agenda. You're free to leave. Have a great rest of your day. Moving into the held case and continued case agenda. Rezoning case Z44 of 2019, Curley Family Homes LLC, requests a rezoning from R15 O&I and NRC to RM8 for the purpose of a townhome community in land lot 42 of the 17th District. The property is located on the northwest side of Nickajack Road, east of Floyd Road, and on the east side of White Boulevard. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z44? Please raise your hands. We got 4. Let the record show there's 4 people here in opposition to rezoning case Z44 of 2019. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
The GIS with the zoning on? The one on, the one. PowerPoint. That one's, that's at the end. Okay, I'll go over that. Yeah. Good morning.
You all ready? Okay, I guess we're ready. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Kevin Moore here on behalf of Curley Family Homes in this application for rezoning. This property is just over 8.5 acres, 8.59 acres. It's located off of White Road as well as Nickajack Road in the Mableton community. We are seeking a rezoning of its existing categories of office, institutional, NRC, which is neighborhood retail commercial, and R15, now to the deleted category of RA6 for a townhome community of 47 homes, which is 5.47 units per acre, so very low in terms of overall density for a townhome project. You can see on your screen here where the property is highlighted to show you those zonings where you can see the O&I and NRC zonings on the front half of the property and the R15 zoning on the back half of the property. The property that is zoned O&I and NRC, as you might suspect, is within the Neighborhood Activity Center that you see is located there at Floyd Road and the intersection with White Boulevard. That's a Kroger shopping center. That's the big box that you see there. In addition, on the north side of this property, what's labeled as R20 is actually Floyd Middle School. So that kind of gives you where you are in the county, as well as how this property fits in both to the rear of the shopping center and side of Floyd Middle School in this particular location. Also, you'll see to the western boundary across White Boulevard is an NRC tract that's already zoned NRC and scheduled for development as a small retail center in the near future. So this property comes to you now as a proposed RA6 for a total of 47 homes. I'm going to turn to the site plan now and go over how we've laid this out and some of the what we think beneficial portions of this proposed community, as well as many of the stipulations that are incorporated. I want to highlight those so you can see to the extent to which we have met the concerns that have been raised for us throughout a couple of different community meetings. So turning now to the site plan. Good job. Thanks. Turning now to the site plan, which gives you a little bit more detailed look. This is White Boulevard as it connects then to Floyd Road at the signalized intersection. This is Floyd Middle School, as I was describing. On the southern side of this property, this is the rear and side of the Kroger Shopping Center located here in the heart of Mableton. This is the proposed townhome community consisting of a total now of 47 homes. This is down from originally it was proposed for 55 homes, then it was proposed for 50 homes, and then over the last month we have now reduced that to 47, which is keeps reducing it down to the bare minimum to make this project successful, especially given the level of commitments that are being made. This project consists of a single public road and two separate types of townhome product that I'll share with you momentarily. First, we have front entry product that'll be located here. This is alley fed or rear loaded product, so you have these townhomes which will front face out to White Boulevard. That also creates two pocket parks here and here. Lastly, I also want to point out this particular strip that comes down to Nickajack. You saw that on the original screen. That's the frontage to Nickajack and has played an important part in this overall rezoning story. During our two community meetings in Mableton, which were very, very well attended, both meetings had over 50 people, probably over 75 at least at one of them. Initially, our project had a proposed access, as you might expect, down to Nickajack Road. The majority of the people that were at the community meetings expressed tremendous opposition to having access here on Nickajack. When you progress on Nickajack Road, once you get past this Kroger Shopping Center, it turns into a largely single-family, larger lot neighborhoods, as well as developed R20 subdivisions along Nickajack Road. And their main concern was having an access to a townhome community. Aesthetically and how their neighborhood is presented, they felt that were opposed to how that would look. So what we have done is changed and revised that plan. This will now simply just be a single-family home. That section's not being rezoned. It meets the R20 standards, and therefore it will fall in line and be consistent with Nickajack Road as you get past the shopping center, which is located here. Now all access is here on White Road, which has direct access to a signalized intersection on Floyd Road. In addition, these revisions allowed us to create, as I said, these 2 pocket park areas, as well as an extended 25-foot landscape buffer and buffer area. There are single-family homes located here, here, and here. For that buffer, we have very explicit language in our stipulation letter that it will be more than just a landscape buffer. It will be heavily planted and treed to create 100% screening. There will be a landscape review committee consisting that will be in place to review that specific landscape plan, which will ultimately be approved by the district commissioner to ensure that the intent of these stipulations is met. In addition, we are installing a fence along this boundary line on top of that very much extended buffer and buffer area in order to address the concerns that have been raised by those residents from this proposed project. A couple of things about the proposed project in general as well. Where this sits, positioned adjacent to the shopping center, adjacent to the school, another proposed shopping center that will be located here at the signalized intersection. We believe, and along with the community members that we met with, that it provides for an excellent transition. It provides for an excellent location for a small townhome community of 47 homes. That only helps these businesses in the local area, improves those businesses in the local area. In addition, it provides for exactly what this area has been looking for a very long time, and that is quality residential in this particular area that will enhance the commercial that's already there, enhance the existing residential that's already there, and as well as provide for a village and a community feel for this entire area without taking away from the other single-family elements that in traditional neighborhoods that you see going down Nickajack. This property now is isolated from Nickajack Road. It won't even be seen from Nickajack Road. It's focused entirely on White Road and mixing appropriately with the shopping center and future retail center in that location. Lastly, there has been an issue raised with the school access and potential conflict with that, and I wanted to flip through a couple of slides for you. He's putting those up, and what these slides are going to demonstrate is that, yes, while we have a proposed access that is in close proximity to Floyd Road, to Floyd Middle School, that is common when you have throughout the county, and we just simply have a few examples here where you'll have other schools that are located or share an access road with an adjacent neighborhood or residential area. This is not uncommon. It's probably any school you can think of in your neighborhood shares some access road or shares a road with a densely populated residential neighborhood. Going through these slides, you have Smyrna Elementary School and Campbell High School, which are part of the Belmont redevelopment area. Those actually share and are adjoining to high-density neighborhoods in the city of Smyrna. That was part of a planned development and share the actual access. You can see on the bottom is Smyrna Elementary. On the top is a dense townhome as well as a cluster home development that was done there as part of the Belmont redevelopment. In addition, you have Campbell High School, which is also part of that, which same development, which again shares the very same access roads in the school system. Traffic, residents, and school traffic do not seem to have a problem in these other locations. Likewise, you can go to Dickerson Middle School, which also, while located on Woodlawn Drive, it shares its main access with Hampton Woods subdivision off of Chestnut Lake Drive, again, sharing the very same access for residential and the school. Continuing on, you have Walton High School and Dodgen Middle School, same situation, that share the access off a short residential road, Bill Murdoch Road. And lastly, Bullard and McClure. Bullard Elementary and McClure Middle School are located off Old Stylesboro, and there are multiple subdivisions that run right off of Old Stylesboro as well as commercial in that area. With that, we believe this is an excellent proposal and rezoning proposal, and I want to reserve the rest of my time for Ms. Robin Meyer of Mableton Improvement Coalition. Thank you, Bill. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you. My name is Robin Meyer. I'm the chairman of the zoning committee of the Mableton Improvement Coalition, and I want to state our support for this application as presented, not at the less dense level as recommended by the Planning Commission. The school traffic comes before the, comes well after the rush hour traffic. We don't see the problems there. And we appreciate the applicants working with the community, holding public meetings, and listening to the voice of the majority of the folks who live in Mapleton. So thank you very much for your time, and we urge that, well, the clock just started over, so I'm a little confused about what time it is.
We're going to give you some extra time.
Okay, well, we urge that you would approve this application at or near the density that is proposed by the applicant. It does create a great residential opportunity in Mapleton that would provide these future residents with a walkable community, a community of folks who would move to this area, seeing the shopping and hopefully soon more dining options that would be right outside their front door. We also appreciate the fact that that this is a little bit of a different kind of development for Mapleton, but we believe that it is appropriate. It is far more appropriate than the possible commercial development of the western portion of this property, so which would create tremendous traffic problems for the middle school. So again, thank you for your time, and please approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, in fairness, we'll give those in opposition 11 minutes. So please, address the podium, let us know who you are and where you live.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Shepard. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm a resident at 618 Nickajack, and my property is adjacent to the proposed development, and my house is probably the closest building. But I want to thank Lisa Cupid for taking the time, as well as the applicant for meeting with the community. I, too, am concerned about the quality of the neighborhood, and I want any development in the area to be an improvement of what we have, but I have several concerns and objections to the current plan. My first is density. I think that the proposed development coming from 55 to 51 to 47 still puts a lot of people in a very small space. It's also out of character with the neighborhood and the other houses in the area along Nickajack. Also, I've reviewed the documents prepared by Cobb County staff, and I'm concerned that many people would negatively impact current resources such as utilities and schools. Next. When you bring more people into an area, which one of my neighbors is going to talk about as well, with more people comes safety issues, more access, and more danger. And since my property is so close, needless to say, I'm concerned about that. I have requested that if this development occurs at any size, that a landscape buffer be put in place, including a privacy fence that well exceeds the 6-foot limit. I need something taller than me so that people can't be crossing through from the development onto the single-family homes in the neighborhood. The third issue has to do with aesthetics and quality. Any townhomes that are built in the neighborhood should be of high quality and attractive. The original elevations that I looked at, I did not find attractive. There's still townhomes between a school and a grocery store, and so that leads me to also be concerned. So, tentatively, as it stands, with 47 units in the plan, I continue to be opposed, and that hope that you will take my minority vote in Mapleton as having some major concerns about the density, safety, and aesthetics of this proposed plan.
Thank you for coming this morning, Ms. Shepard.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Roy Wilcox. My interest in this zoning request is that I've been a resident of the Nickajack Road area for 42 years, and a member of Fellowship Pool, which is connected on the north side of this property for over 22 years. The developer has stated that this townhomes will help with the business in the community. What they do not include is that just to the north of this development, less than a half a mile, is Peacock Park. It currently has 35 homes that are, most of them are completed, but this is new to the area. Also, then less than a half a mile to the northwest of this property on Floyd Road is Willowcrest, a new development. That is 154 new homes. So altogether, what we're looking at is if they include their 47 townhomes, that's 236 new homes being built within a half a mile of each other. That is a great amount, that's a lot of density. That's a lot of new homes, and this has not even been considered what's happening to the neighborhood. Also, this is at an area where there's a Publix shopping center and a Kroger shopping center, and there's just a lot of traffic right in that area that goes in and out through there. And once again, if you're adding these 189 new homes and plus what they want to do with their 47, that's going to increase the traffic within that area. Also, with these new homes, it's going to increase the number of children who enter Mableton Elementary, which is 108 over capacity, and the school board is not too sure exactly how many people or how many students will be going to Mableton that will add to this from these Peacock and Willowcrest. Also, then South Cobb is impacted. They already have 13 over their capacity. Also, the Mableton Improvement Coalition, they have stated to the board that the Curly development will not impact this White Boulevard. In the mornings, that's generally true because there's a long period of time for parents to bring their children. In the afternoon, it's a little bit different story. You can see right where the bus is, that's about where the drive is going to go, right there on White Boulevard. Next one, please. And you see, before 4 o'clock, the traffic is already starting to build up, and this is White Boulevard, and you can see it's going to be right where the stop sign or the warning sign is. That's where the entrance is. Next one, please. This once again, another picture where the red light, where the stop sign warning is. That's where the street will be. Next one, please. And then it starts backing up to Floyd Road, and this is where you got the Kroger on the right, and then the Floyd Middle School on the left. Next one. And you see people coming out of Kroger. You see a child walking across. You have the crossing guards, and of course the street is still blocked up going up to Floyd Middle School. The next one. And this is traffic coming out, and this goes up to about 4:45, so it's about a 45-minute event that's happening there. And speaking with the crossing guards, both of them said that when it rains, this greatly increases, and there's traffic that's backed up to Floyd Road. Okay. And this is another picture showing people trying to exit, and off to the right will be the new Will Creek home. Okay. That's good. Also, I want to address the from stormwater management. They stated that there is a potential or known drainage problems that exist for the developments downstream from this site. Fellowship Incorporated is just to the north of that, and there's also a 1-acre pond. Fellowship Pool want to share the property on the north side of the development. A detention pond, which is on from Floyd Middle School, it drains on the southwest section of the Fellowship property where there's parking. Where this detention pond will go will be right at where the parking is, and which will decrease the parking for Fellowship Pool. Also, what I'm understanding is that if they're going to build a house with a drive that goes onto Nickajack, that is a blind drive coming from Floyd Road. And once you can actually see where that driveway will be, if you're driving 35 miles an hour, you have less than 3 seconds to slow down or stop to be able to see someone coming out onto Nickajack there. So that will impact that little area too. I'm not opposed to the families who want to sell this property. Speaking with the neighbors, they said they'd much rather see less density and some nice homes. And so I believe that, something else could be there other than this 47, which will greatly impact the schools, the traffic, and also that's with all that's going around it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for coming today. Thank you. Thank you for coming today.
Good morning. My name is Dave McDaniel. I live on Shannon Green Circle, about 2 miles from this area. I want to thank the staff and the Planning Commission for what I think was arriving at the right conclusion, that this proposal is not appropriate. It's high density, it's multifamily. Our neighborhood, the residential part of our neighborhood is R15 and R20. I think compatibility is an issue, and so I agree with them that we need to downsize this in terms of density. There are neighbors, there are Mabletonians who support this proposal, and there are many of us who do not, and most of us who do not, I think, are probably the neighbors in that area. So I just wanted to add that 2 cents worth. Thank you for your time.
Good. Thanks for coming today, sir. Anyone else in opposition? Seeing none, Commissioner Cupid?
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank those who came and spoke with respect to this application and who've been involved with this application for several months as it has been continued to try to resolve the concerns on all sides to see this property to move forward in a way that would be positive for the community. There were a number of issues that were brought up today, some of which we've addressed prior, but some of which are new. So before I make a decision, I'd like for staff to come up and address some of these concerns and also the applicant. I'll start with the latter concern regarding stormwater. If I can have Dave approach. The applicant may want to weigh in on this too.
Yes, ma'am. Dave Braden with the Stormwater Management Division.
Yes, good morning, Dave. The last speaker, the second to last speaker spoke about the stormwater development of the site and how it would diminish parking for an adjacent area. This adjacent development called Fellowship Pool.
I'm not sure because where that comment came from, but because the pond is going to be completely on the site, and we'll be discharging to an existing channel that runs through the downstream property that's also receiving flow from Floyd Middle School. So I'm not sure where.
Okay, so
that
you're
came
not aware
from.
of that. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll address that with the applicant.
And in my comments, the applicant will have to do a downstream analysis to verify that there is adequate capacity in that channel or limit their flow to what that channel can accommodate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
They're also having to do a downstream analysis on the lake that he mentioned as well, which is a subsequent
ensure,
owner farther down, right? Pre and post development sediment survey as well as routing. Any others? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, Kevin, can you address a comment made about the stormwater development diminishing parking of Fellowship Pool, and if you have addressed that at some point?
Sure, I can try to point out what I believe he's speaking of. Just turning to the site plan so folks know where we're talking about. We have a proposed stormwater management facility detention pond located here. The property that's the Fellowship Pool property is located adjacent and wraps around this portion of the property. Our stormwater and the small lake that Mr. Braden was talking about, travels north. So this discharges in this direction to that. And as Mr. Braden stated, we'll have full stormwater studies and downstream capacity studies, and that pond studies that will be part of that and already part of stormwater's comments that we're agreeable to. In addition, we've been in discussions with the Fellowship Pool Board leadership. Mr. Wilcox is not on that leadership board, but we've been in touch with them and had very positive conversations with them about how that will come about and how we can mutually benefit from that.
Okay, looking at where Fellowship Pool is located in this site plan, is there parking that's taking place on the open space here of this property for Fellowship Pool?
No, this is open space as part of our community that will be part of just general park area for our residents. The area he's speaking of, I assume he's speaking towards the Fellowship Pool parking areas, of which our stormwater will not impact that whatsoever.
Okay, is there a buffer on that end of this development?
Yes, we have, per our stipulations, we have a 50-foot buffer along this entire area, along this entire boundary here, and then obviously you have large open space there, so that the pool area can be protected.
Okay, I'm going to segue to comments made by the first speaker in opposition with respect to the buffer, which was Ms. Sarah Shepherd.
Sure.
Yes, she had a request that the buffer be increased adjacent to her property. I'm going to address that too. Yeah, that's okay. And I shouldn't have responded because I know we don't try to encourage speaking back and forth from here to the audience, but we're going to address both. If you can address the buffer on Ms. Shepherd's property,
Yes.
and I believe that's in stipulation 15.
Yes, and I just wanted to make sure I pulled that so I can be very specific, okay? Thanks again. Sure. And Ms. Shepherd, who we've met with a number, or I've talked with and met with a number of times, yes, she's, her property and home is located about right here. What we have proposed is a minimum 25-foot landscape buffer along this entire boundary, residential boundary that we have in this here. That landscape buffer is specifically addressed in our stipulation letter that it will be heavily and densely landscaped to provide for complete visual screening. In addition, we do have a landscape review committee that will be a part of the overall approval, so you have community input into the final landscape plan for that. As far as a fence, yes, we are agreeable to a fence along this boundary, a 6-foot privacy fence.
Beyond 6 feet, she requested,
We can do.
and I saw in the
Matt?
stipulation letter, 8 feet. So I
Right,
just wanted
as
to-
far as, the highest we can go is 8 feet, and if
Okay.
that addresses her concern, we'll do an 8-foot fence. Like I said, it's a completely landscaped area, so we're happy to do an 8-foot fence if that addresses her concern. We've already agreed to the 6-foot fence.
Okay. And then there's a 50-foot buffer that's on the eastern boundary of the property?
Yes, and same landscape buffer along the eastern boundary here, which actually then forms a part of our open space there as well.
Okay. Very good.
And again, part of the design here to have the, again, these are the alley units here and here, so that you don't simply have units that, would be front units stretched along this entire area here. You then have large open space park areas, which again cuts down on any kind of visual intrusion as well. And that, again, that's part of the design for this
Okay.
proposed community.
All right. With respect to elevations,
Yes.
yes, Ms. Shepherd had addressed concern regarding the original elevations that were provided.
Yes, and he's on the screen now placing these are the updated elevations showing that were submitted last week and provided, which again, this shows these are the rear entry homes that would be the closest to Ms. Shepherd. And what we've done is made sure we've increased the brick and stone elements across those across these homes, and we think they look great. These are excellent townhomes, an excellent product. And in addition, we've added more brick and stone as well to the fronts and sides of the townhomes that would be front entry. Those are on the other side of the property from Ms. Shepherd.
Okay.
And again, these are projected to be in the high 300s as a sales price. This is going to be a very nice quality upper end townhome community.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The largest matter that I think, well, two large matters that were brought had to do with density and traffic, which I'll address. I think the traffic is driven by the density of the site. As was shared in the original application, the site was both zoned for commercial and retail, with commercial being immediately adjacent to the school and Kroger, and the residential property pulled towards Nickajack. We've had this site come before the board. I don't know if any of you who were here in the past remember when there was a Bojangles that was being considered here, and there was concerns from the community about the amount of traffic that type of site would attract, with people going in and out, perhaps not paying attention to children as they're getting something to eat during the same hours that school is in session. There was also concern in the community looking at the neighborhood residential zoning of the site and looking at what's going on in Mableton right now. This is something that wasn't shared in the application, but this is something that we've been dealing with code enforcement and the community, is that Mableton has become an attractive location for those wanting logistical access throughout Metro Atlanta. And I don't want to put a particular retailer, but it's a very popular retailer that they provide delivery, and they're probably one of the top retailers that provide delivery response within 24 to 48 hours. And wherever we have any spot of land, even if it's not properly zoned, they are parking there. And we have just had them moved from one commercial site, which used to be an old Target. They moved to another site, which was a code enforcement matter, where an auto broker was running out of. They moved the auto broker, and we're just looking to see where they're going to pop up next. And so our concern is that if we do not address the neighborhood retail commercial parcels in our community, they're going to be subject to a lot of vehicular traffic that are providing deliveries throughout Metro Atlanta. And we've actually had that happen to a Kmart facility, which is maybe about a mile to 2 miles from here, where the Kmart shopping center left. The community thought we'd get someone to move into the shopping center, and now the whole Kmart the whole Kmart parking area is full of these delivery vehicles. And we have just immense traffic from it. That's come on to Floyd, that's come on to Mableton Parkway and Veterans Memorial, and throughout other roadways in the area. So while we can consider the low-density residential character of this site, of half of this site, and tacking that on to the original neighborhood activity center designation for this site, we would still be looking at commercial traffic, which would be beyond what would be generated in a residential area. So when the applicant came forward and wanted to consider residential for the entire site, it just at least provided some ease to the constituents who have been working on this parcel when it's come in for other zonings to de-intensify the amount of traffic here. Yes, for those who saw the areas being low-density residential, if we can put there's a map that, I guess it's the site map that shows Nickajack and School Access Road.
That.
Yes. So the R15 portion was originally accessed by Nickajack Road. And when we had our community meeting, residents were not amenable to seeing that change in residential character of the area and have that come on to Nickajack Road. But as Kevin worked with the community, with the Mableton Improvement Coalition and the several other residents who attended, when they agreed to not have Nickajack Road be an access point, they became amenable to this development because they did not see that change of character in residential property impacting Nickajack Road. And in fact, it was viewed as having a townhome community where there's residential actually being somewhat of a step down in the intensity of what would be there beforehand. And when we look at step-down zoning, you have residential, you have R20, you have R15, and we have neighborhood retail commercial. A townhome development is somewhat of a step-down zoning of intensity of residential character for that area, which helps to, I think, moderate that land use intensity from Floyd Road into the more heavily residential area on Nickajack. So with that, I'm more amenable. The main thing I was concerned about was the school. And in conversation with, or getting communication from the school board and the PTA, there were some concerns about residential having access onto White Boulevard, which goes into the school. And it's my understanding historically, it was always understood that there would be public access onto White Road. If the school board wanted that not to have public access, we could have made that a private road for the school, but that was not the path that was taken. So again, we would still have traffic generated here. It's just, would that be commercial traffic coming close to the school, or would it be residential traffic? And to me, looking at residential traffic from a townhome community provides less of a impact to traffic along White Boulevard. And with it being in such close proximity to the school, hopefully there'll be even increased mindfulness from residents there who could possibly have children attending the school. There was a comment made about school capacity. South Cobb High School, which is zoned for this area, is 13 over capacity. Mableton Elementary is 108 over capacity. Floyd Middle School here is 196 under capacity. And I wish there was a silver bullet where all the schools would be under or over capacity, but it's just not how it has worked. We've had many discussions with the school board about how we moderate development based off of capacity of the schools. And in my discussions with them here with the board and in private, I believe their approach is to be responsive to school population, and I don't think they necessarily build, from what I've heard from them. I hate to speak on behalf of the school board, but they don't necessarily build schools in anticipation of development. They respond to that development. And considering that, again, we have the most proximate school that's 200 under capacity, I'm hesitant to limit this development because of that. And as was shared by the head of the Mableton Improvement Coalition, this development here would actually be, it would be a positive, looking at the quality and character of the development. And I've had a number of residents tell me they want to see more development by our schools to strengthen our schools. And when we finally get strong development to strengthen our schools, it becomes frustrating when we don't see that move forward. And today, I do not want to be a hurdle in seeing that move forward. 47 is certainly more than the 27 that would have been permitted in R15. But again, I think it's a moderated capacity, a moderated number. And I see a lot more positives with this application. And the applicant was willing to work with adjacent property owners to reduce flow onto Nickajack and to put in the buffer and the fence. And I think we're going to have a strong development overall for the community. So with that, I move that we do approve Z44, subject to the letter provided by Kevin Moore. And Kevin, there was a supplement letter that was provided to the September 12th letter. And the supplement letter had the decrease in density from 50 to 47 homes and also had new elevations. Can you tell me the date of that letter?
Yes, it was last Wednesday, so that would be the,
I have it here. I just need to, I can find it, Kevin. I just got to go through my papers. Thank you. The 9th of October.
yes, that's it. Thank you. Yes, October 9th.
So I'd like to, yes, again, move that we approve Z44, subject to the applicant letter dated September 12th and followed by the supplemental letter dated October 9th. Also subject to Planning Commission comments and recommendations, except striking number 2, which had a lower maximum number of units. Also included in any staff comments and recommendations not otherwise in conflict.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Okay, discussion. Commissioner Ott.
Commissioner Cupid, I appreciate your concern about residential versus commercial, and especially in light of the having to deal with the delivery vehicles. I just, in light of our discussions about White Boulevard in the past, I just think 47 is too many units, and so I can't support it.
Okay. Thank you.
And you're agreeable to that?
Yes, I'm agreeable. Yes, that's in the 8-foot fence, and the buffer is included in the applicant's letter. Yeah.
And while I haven't been here for previous discussions on Nickajack, this is in an act, and we have typically restricted an act to 5 units per acre. Therefore, I cannot support this.
Okay.
Any other comments?
5 units per acre would be 45 homes, and this is 47. This is a 9.24 acre. And I don't know what the 2.4 yield is. Let me do some math here. It would be 46 homes. So you're telling me if we were to drop the density or drop the number of units by 1 home, you would be amenable? I have 9.24 times 5.
It's not, it's, okay. And that was the other conflict, Commissioner Cupid, is the application had 9.24 acres, yet Kevin Moore in his stipulation letter says 8.59 acres. So that does impact the density calculation.
Can you address that?
I can't. The original application included the access to Nickajack. And so when that was revised and we removed that access to Nickajack, that portion of the property is remaining R20. So the acreage is 8.59 that's being rezoned. So that was, our application was amended because we're not rezoning that tract.
So let me do the math. Give me 1 second.
So we're still at.
Still at 42.95.
Yeah, so we have 8.59 acres and proposing 47 homes, which is a density of 5.4.
So would 4 homes make a difference for this application, Kella?
It
Or
would for the
Commissioner?
applicant.
Would the 4 homes make a difference?
It would for the applicant. I don't believe it has any impact on the overall public welfare from the road situation or anything else. We've made a lot of commitments to spend a lot of money and to address those concerns that are in our letter. And that's just where we are.
I just want to be helpful here, Commissioner. My concern is that if we deny this and you can't come back for a year, and I'm hearing a lot of questions about density, my issue is about density. So if there's any way you could, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Moore, I do. But I lean heavily on the commissioner here because I know she wants to develop this area for the arguments that she made. But I can't support it because of the density issues. And that's what I'm hearing from the other 2 board members. So I'm trying to find a way here that we can help you here without kicking this can down the road for another year that something else might come by.
Well, in a year, we know something would, in a week, something definitely will come here that would impact traffic here in this community. So, I mean, we're arguing about the density of the homes, and we're balancing that
Well, looking at
with
what
the increased vehicular traffic
What-
that would be guaranteed.
In speaking with the client, if 4 gets it done, so that it's a total of 43, they'll figure out how to make that work in some way, form, or fashion. I would, there's too much work that's gone into this project and working with the community and working with the Mapleton Improvement Coalition and working with the other residents on Nickajack Road, and even the ones that spoke in opposition. We're not enemies. We've become friends over this and talk very well. It's just at the end of the day, we kind of got to this point. I would hate for all the effort from Curley Family Homes to end up where we're 4 short, and they agree with that. They don't want this to go because of that. I mean, they'll figure out where the erasers are in their calculations on the pro forma.
Could you give me a couple seconds, Kevin, please?
Of course.
Okay, so if you would,
Okay, so
if
if we
you'd
modify,
modify
if we
that,
modify this application to 43 homes, would you be amenable to that, Commissioner? Okay. So let's add that stipulation in for a maximum of 43 homes. District Commissioner final approval of homes and site plan.
And then one other clarification, are these for rent or are these for
No,
ownership?
ma'am, these are for ownership. There's a stipulation
Yes.
in the letter
Okay.
that limits it to 10%.
Well, Mr. Moore in his presentation said for rent, that's why.
I don't think I did.
the letter
Yeah,
says
you
10.
did, right, towards the end, before you turned over to Robin, you said for rent, that's why I wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I don't remember saying that, but if I did, that was completely misstated. We have it stipulated no more than 10%. These are absolutely for sale.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thanks for clarifying that. I didn't know that said that, so thank you.
But looking at one of those pictures,
Number 6.
looking at one of those pictures with the people in the afternoon trying to pick up their kids, they may not be able to get to this development between 4 and 4:45. So, so that man who brought those pictures, thank you very much. That was very instructive. But trust me, you're not the Lone Ranger of the county. That's everywhere in the county.
Yes, it is.
People picking up their kids. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, so again, just to clarify that stipulation, it's a max of 47 homes, a district commissioner having final approval, 43 homes, sorry. 43 homes, a district commissioner having final approval of the site plan and of building architecture.
Okay, I still have my concerns about density, but what I like to hear here is that we all work to try to find a middle-of-the-road approach, and that's how I like to work things. So I'll support you on this one, Commissioner Cupid.
Thank you.
Without any other questions, call the question. Passes 4-1 with Commissioner Rott in opposition.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good,
Commissioner.
thank you.
Okay, rezoning case Z57, Eric Klein and Rita Klein request a rezoning from R20 to CRC for the purpose of a professional office in land lot 898 of the 16th district. The property is located on the southwest side of Providence Road, east of Roswell Road. The applicants are present. Is there anyone here opposed to rezoning case Z57? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Rita Klein. This is Eric Klein. We were told there would be some questions for us, and we thought, we were under the impression that the CRC zoning was on consent. So with all due respect, we were a little bit blindsided with this hearing. I believe you're wanting to switch it to LRO? Is that what this is about?
I'll let the Commissioner address that.
All right. I'm not sure why you're totally blindsided, because I know staff reached out to you and told you that I was uncomfortable with CRC on consent and that I was requesting that it be downzoned into LRO. And my understanding is that the Planning Commission asked for the same thing and staff's recommendation was LRO. So the reason it's not on consent is because I don't agree with CRC.
Okay.
So what you need to do now, and if you're not prepared, then we can hold it, but you need to basically present to the board what it is you'd like to do.
Okay, all right. So let me start by saying, we are already burdened with a very small lot, half an acre. We are trying to find the least burdensome option for construction for full use of the lot, something that will optimize the use of the whole lot. The first call I got yesterday was from Mr. Peterson in regards to this being changed. So that was yesterday afternoon. Today, when I came in and looked over the paperwork, it said that we were on consent for CRC, but that's fine. Basically, we had a little time yesterday to look over all the regulations for the LRO, and the first thing that we did see on there was that there's a 20-foot, the driveways can't be more than or less than 20 feet away from the property lines on both sides. And if you look at our, can you zoom in to our property?
Make it a little bit bigger.
If you look at our plan that we submitted, our driveways are actually less than the 20 feet on both sides of the properties, the west side and the east side. Like I said, it's a very small lot. So if we were to follow this rule, our driveway in and out would be right in the middle of the property, which basically would not give us any parking space. And that would not work for this plan, for this site plan. The other thing also is on the traffic and parking Cobb County official site for the codes, number 7 says that we can only use 35% of the front yard for parking, which again would limit the amount of parking and therefore limit the amount of space, of the square footage of the building. The other thing also, section 11 on the Cobb County ordinances under the district regulations. Section I says that we are not to have any laboratories or clinics on an LRO. And this space is going to be for a professional office, most likely a dental or medical clinic, which will have a laboratory on site. So right there, that is an issue. I understand you're uncomfortable with the CRC, but may I ask why? Okay. So we've already agreed that the maximum height of the building is going to be a 2-story building. The maximum height is going to be 35 feet, and I think that is part of the LRO stipulation, which we agreed to have there. That's basically, that's all I have right now. I mean, we may have to ask for a continuance if that's not that's not up to par, if that's not good enough. But basically, all these reasons are the reason why we asked for the CRC. Is the parking being one of the most important, and also, that we can't use the whole front of the area for the parking, and this is intended for a laboratory, a dental or medical practice that will be a clinic that will have a laboratory in it.
Okay. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Commissioner Ott.
Okay, that's all I have for a question for you all right now. I'd like to have DOT come up, please.
You just take a seat. We may call you back up, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Amy Diaz, DOT.
Hey, Amy. Good morning. All right, so there's a comment in DOT comments that I wanted you to kind of clarify what it meant. It talks about one-way access for ingress and egress. What are you referring to?
If you look at their site plan, you can see that they have a one-way flow noted on there. And so we don't have the detail level on this site plan, but we wanted to make them aware that they would have to do appropriate signing and marking for one-way flow when that came through plan review.
Okay, and what about their comment about the number of parking or only being used 35%? Is that you or is that ComDev?
To my knowledge, that is community development.
All right. Okay, that's all I have for you right now.
Certainly.
John?
Yes, sir.
35%?
That's correct.
What are we talking about?
It is in the parking standards, Commissioner Ott, regarding the 35%. But with this application, you know, there is room to put some parking to the side and to the rear, but the board can definitely give them a variance if most of the parking is in the front due to the septic field in the back.
Right, I mean, well, right now, the number of parking that's being provided is about half of what's required, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And staff's recommendation, or I believe, was LRO, was it not?
Well, the staff recommended approval for the CRC in the book because it met the land use plan, it's what they asked for, and what they want to do fits into the category. But all they really need is LRO for what they want to do here.
Right.
They don't need a higher category.
Right, okay. Could the applicants come back up, please?
Okay, one question, John. Given the comments that she just made here, she indicated that they can't run a business with an LRO, the kind of business they want to run here. You're saying they can.
They can. A dentist office is specifically permitted in LRO.
Okay.
And there's certain things with a doctor's office or dentist office where we know there's going to be a small laboratory to culture things and to work things out. The kind of clinic and laboratory that's allowed in CRC is the primary use of the property.
Correct.
It's not.
That's not the case here.
No.
That's not what was asked for.
That's right. It's just a professional office.
Okay, but based on her comments, would LRO be, would they be allowed to operate that?
Well,
their
Mr. Chairman, I
operation?
think that's part of the problem, is the issue of what exactly the intended use is, because what's in the application and what Ms. Klein said are not consistent with each other. Okay, and so that's what I'm getting ready to get to.
Okay, all right.
All right, on the site plan, do you own the one-story frame property?
Yes,
Okay, now, the property line on this, we're on the right-hand side, there's like 3 parking spots that extend past what appears to be the property line. Are they in your neighbor's property? Or is this site plan not correct?
This is how it was originally when we bought the property.
when we bought the property. So there is no neighbor. There is a driveway out of the shopping center behind us.
Right,
So
I mean,
that
all right,
is
I'm
just
familiar
the
with the
buffer
I'm
area.
familiar with the driveway, I'm looking at this site plan, and it's showing parking extending past what is listed as the property boundary.
We did not change the parking lot. This is the way the property came.
Okay, I understand
So
that, but,
I-
so my question is, do you have an easement with the neighbor? You know, I understand that parking's there, but the problem is that it goes beyond your property line. So my question is, if there is no easement, the property owner next door could take those away at any time because you don't have permission to have them there on their property. It extends into the properties. That's the first question I have. The second one, so you own the one-story frame. Have you purchased or are you proposing to purchase?
We have purchased.
You have purchased. Okay. And so you have not created the easement yet because the ingress that you're showing where it says proposed public shared entrance only, obviously would be an easement among yourselves, but
Right.
you have not recorded that easement.
Not yet,
Okay.
because we wanted to get through here, this first.
What's that? Yeah, all right, my concerns are, in listening to when you went through the LRO versus the CRC, and the chairman kind of mentioned it, what I think the planning commission and staff was led to believe that what you were proposing was a dental office.
Not just the.
But now, what I hear is that there might be more to it, and when you're looking at the lab and all that, you heard what Mr. Peterson said. I'm not sure that we know exactly what it is you're proposing. You know, in your application, you find exactly what you're
It just says professional
Says medical,
office.
dental.
It's not a dental, it could be any professional, it's chiropractic, legal, accounting, medical.
Right, but the thing is, it just, I think there needs to be more explanation. The other thing is, you're expanding the building a considerable amount, right? I have no elevations, I have no signs, I have no renderings of what the building's gonna look like. You say that the upstairs is gonna be storage. I just do not think that this is ready for the board to act on it today. I think that we need to continue it. You need to kind of either come in and see me, or you need to get with staff, and there needs to be a better explanation of what it is you're trying to do. I'm concerned about the fact that you only have half the amount of parking that's necessary for the two buildings. I have serious concerns that between the two buildings, especially with the increase in size, which looks to be almost tripling the size of the building to the 6,000 square feet that it is overdeveloping the property. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion so we can have other comments, but I don't think this is ready for a decision by the board today.
Okay, so you're making a
So I
motion
will
to
make a
continue.
motion
May,
to,
may I just say one thing?
One second, one
Okay.
second.
I will make a motion to hold this until the November zoning hearing.
Okay, so we have a second. So, all right.
I just wanted to say that property, the 4200 Providence Road, the one-story frame, really has nothing to do with this new property. We are not combining them. And we're just, the only thing we're doing is giving an easement to the property at 4198 to use a common driveway. And that's all we're doing. We're not combining them.
That may be true, but the access to the new site is using that to get in. There is an issue about the flow. There is an issue about parking. So, yes, it's not in the zoning, but the fact of the matter is, it is critical to the ultimate use of the new property because of the access and the proposed easement. This board does not go and approve zonings unless they know how people are going to get in and out of it. And since you own both properties, obviously you're not going to be an issue of issuing the easement.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, no, we're not considering the use of the one-story frame, but that part of that property that is being used for the entrance is important.
Commissioner Gamble, sure.
Yes. In reviewing stormwater and water comments, water and sewer comments, it says public sewer is essentially inaccessible due to the topography and existing development surrounding this property. Have you gone to the health department to see if the type of building you are planning to put on there is allowed to be on septic?
Yes, it is.
And they have given you approval?
They have. I have a letter of approval. And
Okay.
also, we did go already, we do have a permit for the septic.
I think we're close, quite honestly. Small hiccup here. I think the question about the elevations is a good one. Because when we're doing rezonings, like this last case, we saw what they would look like. I think if you come back to the board with that, all right, you seem to have done all your homework. There's just one small step here that I think needs to be taken care of, in interest of making sure that, A, we deal with the elevation, but it's amazing how the small stuff can come back to haunt you. And the thing about the easement's really a big deal. So make sure that we cover all that when you come back. And think with that, I think we'll have answered most of the questions of the board.
Excuse me, when you mean elevations, what exactly do you mean?
Well, a picture of what you've got on here, what you want to do.
We
but
have some
haven't.
pictures, yeah.
We actually included some photos
Well, I
with
got
the
a
No,
picture.
application.
the photos you included were of the surrounding buildings. What the chairman is talking about is you are taking the existing one-story frame and modifying it and adding a second floor. There are no elevation drawings of what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we weren't aware that that was necessary for
Okay.
a preliminary plan, but we
Well, I
can
mean,
get that to you.
this is, the planning commission is somewhat of the preliminary stop. When you get to the board of commissioners and you're getting final approval, it has to be the complete package.
Okay.
So you want to see a rendering of the.
Yes, I want to see a
Sure,
rendering of
right,
what it's
yeah.
going to look like. And John, Commissioner Burrow had a question about the impervious? What are we at on, I mean, I guess this might be Dave. I don't know, have you looked at this, David?
If I may. I was just gonna say, I would not support CRC at this location. However, if you come back with LRO for a specific use, make sure you're within the impervious surface limits for LRO.
And I think they can do that. They are proposing, and the plan does show using pervious pavement, so they will get a credit for some of that
Okay.
to be able to stay under that limit.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second.
I have some comments on
And
this.
Commissioner Cupid?
Yes. I just want to share with the applicant that usually when we have matters on consent, it's because it's anticipated that there are not ongoing issues that need to be heard in a hearing. And I understand the commissioner has some concerns, but it's frustrating to me as a commissioner for you not to be aware of those concerns. And then for you to feel like you should have been aware of those concerns. Because we have the ability to pull matters off consent with knowledge of the applicant. You came in here for CRC, staff approved CRC, planning commission approved CRC. So I can understand why you thought CRC. Now I agree, LRO does seem appropriate for a professional office building, and there may be a way to facilitate what you're trying to do. What I don't understand is the level of antagonism regarding this application for this, and why some of these things were not discussed here when you were on consent. So I'm praying that when you do come back, that these matters are resolved, that you're fully aware of what the ongoing concerns are, and that you can have another addition to the vibrancy of our county through another medical establishment here. And from what I'm hearing from other board members, there's going to be support of that.
Commissioner Cupid, I would remind you that until we get the agenda from staff, we do not know what is on consent from the Planning Commission. Okay, they have not scheduled any meetings with me.
Okay.
They haven't scheduled with any of us, including you.
I know.
And so for you to sit here and tell me how to manage zonings in District 2 is inappropriate. It was on
Okay,
consent, it
all right.
shouldn't have been on consent.
Commissioner,
and
all I'm sharing.
The bottom line here,
And they were told
All right.
yesterday that I had
I'm sorry,
issues.
Chairman.
I'm gonna take control as the chairman, all right? Every commissioner has the right here until the final vote, all right, to make input as to what they believe is the appropriate action or not. Clearly here, there was some small missteps. Let's not make this a bigger deal than it really is, okay? So the issues between CRC and LRO, I think that in another month, we're gonna work this out. And you're gonna come back here, and like Commissioner Cupid said, I hear from the nation of the board, there'll probably be some support. I'm not gonna guarantee it, I can't do that. But it is within the purview of every commissioner here, regardless, up to the last, and we have that happen here all the time, or not all the time, but on occasion. Something happens between the planning commission when it gets here, or when we actually have the board meetings, things pop up. That's why we have these meetings. In this case here, you brought up some interesting points that there are some questions about, and until the commissioners are assured about those, all right, he is right, to ask those questions. So I'm not gonna get into the mechanics of why we got to where we are. And I understand that you'd like to have it approved today, but the thing that drives me is that once we approve a zoning, it's like a law. And it's almost impossible to change. That's why it's so important to get it right, including the smallest detail.
Right.
So I appreciate your patience. I appreciate the comments of the board here.
Chairman, yes, I agree with you, but there's some assertions being made that I don't think the public should feel like certain assertions that were made are necessarily part and parcel with them providing an application. I mean, there are many times that we move forward without some of the things that are being requested. I'm not saying it's wrong to request it, but I just feel like the level of assertion about certain things seeming to be required for this to be considered, for it to even be on consent,
Okay.
I don't, nothing's wrong with conveying it, it's just how it was conveyed,
Okay. Well,
Thank you very much.
your comments are on record here.
Thank you.
And again, we just had a small hiccup here.
And that's fine.
We're gonna be fine.
That's fine, continuance is fine. We just, honestly, we were not prepared. We really did not know until yesterday afternoon
Okay.
that this was even a possibility. So, and Mr. Ott, I also appreciate your comments, and we will come and see you definitely and try to work something out. We're not trying to step on any toes or, we just want to get things done the right way that would work for the community and for us.
Well, clearly, from your comments, you have done your homework. It was a very professional
Well,
presentation.
Thank you.
And I guess what strikes the most is you're not a lawyer,
No,
all right? You didn't need the whole 10 minutes.
no.
So,
No, and honestly, this was just something we looked over yesterday afternoon.
okay.
So,
Well, again,
and I'm glad we did.
again, I know that you'd rather have an answer today, but I think it's important that we get it right. And I always believe that nothing, we don't take a vote here until everyone has got all the facts that they need. And right now, there's still some questions out there. But I'm fully confident that there's a reasonable approach to what we're going to do here next month. And we'll come back next month, and hopefully we'll see it on consent.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much.
Everyone.
You bet, thank you. So we need to take a vote now,
No.
all right? Any other questions? Then I call the question. And it passes 5-0. Thank you. To hold it, that's correct. All right, John?
Yes, sir. Moving into land use permits, LUP 19, Richard Pickering, Pickering Properties LLC, requests a land use permit for the purpose of allowing more unrelated adults than permitted by code in land lot 94 of the 20th District. The property is located on the west side of Shiloh Trail, north of Fray Lake Road. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to LUP 19? At 3? Okay, let the record show there's 3 people here opposed to LUP 19. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
Morning. Let us know who you are and where you live.
Good morning,
And remember,
Commissioners.
And remember, your side has 10 minutes, so just make sure you allocate the time appropriately so everybody gets a chance to make their comments.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. We appreciate it. I'm the proud parent of 2 students at Kennesaw State University. My name is Richard Pickering, and both my son and daughter were or are still at KSU. One started in dorm life there, and then they both moved into apartments after their first year. The cost was very difficult for me in maintaining 2 apartments for them, and became so expensive that the rental rates just became exorbitant. The cost of keeping them in school for the intended 4 years has now turned into 5 and 6 years, so unfortunately they're on the extended plan. So I looked into buying a house as an alternative solution to this, and I actually found that it was actually cheaper to buy a house than to keep them in an apartment. So I did. It was ridiculously expensive keeping in those apartments, and the cost just kept going up and up and up each time that I looked at it. So they both love the school. The house is adjacent, right next to the campus of the school, and they liked it because they could walk to class each day. And for several years, it worked out great. They had a place to live. There were no parties. There were no police called. Both the kids are on the dean's list, doing a great job. Now, per the code, they were allowed to have 1 friend live there as well. So 2 unrelated households living in the same house. That's the rule here in Cobb County. The house has 3 bedrooms and an additional unit in the basement that was added by the prior owner. There are many other houses in the area that are currently housing students. Now, most of them are trying to fly under the radar because of this rule. That's a challenge. My son graduated in the spring and my daughter moved out, but left this one young man who's going to speak with you in just a minute, who's still there, Matt Salin. He'd worked hard for several years to stay in school, working multiple jobs and trying to maintain his education there at the school. My son explained to me when he moved out, he graduated in May, that there are many, many students that are in this same exact situation. They cannot afford the apartment rates that are there. So they've asked, and he said, other kids need a place to live that they can afford, that they can actually continue to work and stay there. So I went through the application process and submitted the land survey and put it together, showing the 2 driveways for the adequate parking for the school. Now, the apartment corporations love this situation. They don't want this to change because they charge exorbitant rates. And they love making so much money that they're going to continue just to up the rates at a regular rate. So right now we live in a time of change, a time that we've embraced and understood. Men can marry other men and have the same last name. Women can do the same. But students who don't have the same last name cannot choose to live together. This is a conundrum to me. Because of their names, they can't choose to live in the same household together as adults. Now, there's more students on the campus now already than the entire population of Kennesaw, Georgia. Let that sink in. There are 34,000 people in Kennesaw and 36,000 and growing at Kennesaw State University. In the next 10 to 15 years, that number is projected to grow to 50 to 65,000 students. That is almost double the number of people living in Kennesaw area. Where are they going to live? In corporate apartments that continue to bilk these students, and in some cases, and unsafe as evidenced by recent events. Why is it that these law-abiding students are discriminated against? They can go off to fight wars for us. They can vote for us. They can't live in a safe house in a very safe area where they can walk to school. They want to be able to live there because they need the same protections that are afforded to other homeowners. Now, there's a few homeowners that are trying to cling to the past. They don't like it that the students have different last names because there was a rule created by some of your forebears long ago that was actually put in place for some very different reasons, not for the reasons that are stated here as these students are having to address. Major universities across the country have all faced this issue. All of you now are having to address this. You're going to have to, one way or another, whether it starts today or another time. Major universities like in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, or even the Mighty Dogs of Athens, Georgia. Every other major campus faced these challenges. Clark County has now, for the University of Georgia, embraced single-family homes for students with multiple names living in the same house, intentionally to relieve the housing problem. This county needs to start thinking along the same lines. The person that runs this group says, don't change, not in our backyard. We don't want our home next to a bunch of students. But they chose to live there. They chose to live there next to a campus where they knew there were going to be students. The advisory panel that you have here is run by a woman named Judy Williams. She told me on the phone that it wouldn't make any difference if I stood here before you today. She said she alone makes the decisions and the board always agrees with her. I find this to be a little shocking. I'm pretty sure that she's not an elected official, and I certainly don't think that she forms the opinions of this board. Now is the time for change. We ask you to consider this by doing right by these students, and many more like them that are coming in the future. Give them fair housing, give them a break, and change this rule. I ask that you think about this so that you can give me or give us a 2-year variance on this house so that while you think through the larger issues at hand here for many, many more students to come in the Kennesaw area, that you can look at other ordinances that were done as a guide from other counties around the state of Georgia, around the country, and to give us a plan for these students to have fair and affordable housing. I ask that you let these students graduate with honor, knowing that they could work hard in school and continue to work in their jobs and do the best that they can to further their education. If not, many of them will have to go home and not be able to finish their educations. So we ask that you try to make a difference, starting with this one location, located right next to the Kennesaw State campus so they can walk to school and continue to live in a safe environment. Thank you, Commissioners. I'd like to introduce Matt Salen, who is currently living at the house.
Thank you, Ms. Pickering.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for your time. So my name's Matt. Like he said, I'm a current KSU student. I've worked 2 or 3 jobs basically my whole life. Living at the house has honestly given me a lot of flexibility. And not only that, but my grades have increased dramatically. Being able to walk to class, it's a safe environment for me. I have group projects, and we always go to my house because it's right next to campus. More than that, I have Bible studies with current students as well at the house. We're not there throwing fraternity parties. Like, I don't know where that disposition is getting created, but we're normal kids. I work and go to school. Like, that's my life. Like, that's it. That's all I do at this house. There's no excess of anything going on. And, you know, the fact that the commissioner or whoever is in charge of that board, would just dismiss something like this and not at least hear us out is kind of absurd. But, I found a lot of comfort in the home, and I can confidently say that it has helped me and all the other students in the house. And I want to make a change. I mean, it's right behind campus. We should be able to have some students in there. And, I'm willing to do whatever it takes for us to come to a common ground to make this work. And, that's basically all I have.
Thank you both. Appreciate you coming this morning.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak in support of this zoning? If not, we'll now open the floor to opposition. You have 10 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Todd Berquist. I'm chairman of the Code and Security Committee for Pine Tree Civic Association, and the association is vehemently opposed to allowing this variance. We have a number of houses where absentee owners are violating county code currently, and those are now cases that are being taken care of by Cobb County Code Enforcement. And I'll say that Kathy Pickett and her team have done yeoman's work in investigating and adjudicating these cases. The fact that there are people violating county code is irrelevant as far as the applicant's arguments go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. My name's Phil Anzalone. I'm president of Pine Tree Civic Organization. Quite honestly, this is not the first applicant that's come in front of you to ask for an exemption from the two unrelated. What the real core issue is the fact that this area around KSU is a single-family residence, mostly R15 and R20. Over the last 4 or 5 years, you've heard many complaints from us about the infusion of people into it. So there's actually 3 things we'd like to ask for you. One is obviously to deny this. It would set a dangerous precedent. Second thing is we would like to reopen the conversation about creating a zone around KSU, whether it's a zone, an overlay, a study, etc. One of the big problems we have with this is even though Weatherburn Woods has covenants, we have major problems enforcing it. A majority of the rental properties are owned by corporations, not people. A majority of them are out of state. So even when code enforcement comes in, it takes 6 months or more to actually go and have them served, etc. I can't tell you how many hours code enforcement spends because the only tool they have to enforce the two unrelated is to count cars. So most of these houses are 4 or 5 bedroom. So you stick 2 cars in the garage, that leaves you 4 cars out in the street. We have several homes, especially in Weatherburn Woods, where we have 5 or 6 students. And it's not necessarily the students that are the issue. The problem is the accountability on this issue, is because whether it's covenants or code enforcement, we can't get compliance. There are so many issues with this. So one of the things we'd like to do is reopen the conversation about the overlay. What are we looking for? We're looking for additional restrictions like other jurisdictions have done, whether it's a renter registration or requiring a business license or parking restrictions, something along that line that basically helps us enforce the two unrelated. There's been several other communities. City of Kennesaw is actually looking at passing a unrelated rental agreement with people. The third thing that we ask for is we've been fighting this for quite a while, and we've done a fairly good job of the bottoms up, working with the Dean of Students, working with KSU Police. We've had a lot of cooperation. What we really would like for the third request is that we have a tops-down approach. One of the things that we've not been able to penetrate is a discussion with the president of KSU. And she's the one that makes the major decisions. So one of our asks is that Commissioner Burrow and Chairman Boyce have a closed-door meeting with her to discuss the impact of KSU on the surrounding area. Thank you for
Thank
your
you, Phil.
continued support.
Thanks for coming back. Okay. Any other voices in opposition? Seeing none, I'll turn the floor to Commissioner Burrow.
First of all, Phil, your comments were, that you addressed, have actually been addressed with us, and we'll continue to meet with and look at how we can work with KSU on these issues. As you all know, we recently, is that on?
I just had to reset.
We recently passed a
Voting for us.
purpose-built student housing code, which did put some restrictions on student housing, private student housing, because of this issue of security and things impacting neighborhoods around KSU. Also, 3 years ago, we changed the code for no more than the 2 unrelated adults to include 1 outside individual. And so we have been making revisions to that code over the years. But it was put in place because of the impact to neighborhoods and single-family homes in platted subdivisions, with increased traffic and cars and so forth in established neighborhoods such as Pine Tree and Weatherburn Woods and the ones in that area. Mr. Pickering, as far as your comments regarding the Planning Commission, I watched the hearing, and you didn't come to the hearing October 1st for the Planning Commission. So my appointee and the chairman, Judy Williams, made a motion to deny your application, and the other members, it was unanimous to deny it. So I don't recall another hearing with the Planning Commission because you weren't at the hearing. If you would come up, I'd like to ask you a few questions. You say that your son and daughter have moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
And the house was originally purchased for them to go to school.
That's correct.
So they've moved out or graduated, I don't know. And Matt is the only one living there now?
No, there are 2 other individuals. I went to the planning committee and applied for this application. Students were saying they needed a place to live right now, and they were desperate trying to find housing. So I said, can I go ahead and do this? And so we put 2 other students in there, so there are 3 in there now. And I recognize that we're in violation of that at this particular moment, but we were asking for this variance. And I was told by the planning commission or the committee that it would be okay until we got to this meeting. The other meeting, just for your reference, I was told the wrong time. I actually came at 6 o'clock at night because in the county I'm from, Board of Commissioners meet in the evening, not in the morning, and I don't know what happened. So I asked to have that rescheduled, and they refused. So I do apologize for that first meeting.
Okay, well, when you filed the application with the zoning office, I believe you would be given the dates of the hearing, and you'd have to post them on the side.
Yes, I understand.
That was at your
I admit to
house.
making a mistake. I showed up at 6 o'clock that night, and then it wasn't here. I didn't
Yeah.
know. So I was told it was at 6 o'clock, like I'm in Forsyth County, and they run theirs at 6 o'clock, so I made a mistake, and
Okay.
I apologize
Well.
for that, ma'am.
I wasn't aware of that. I'm just going by the hearing.
Yeah, I understand. That's
when
why I
you
did
weren't
ask
here.
I did send an email to Judy asking her to reschedule or to come back, or if I could come back and, address the concerns. I was not given that opportunity.
Well, the planning commission is an advisory board to this board, and we make the final decision. They just make a recommendation, so there's really, once it was heard, once it came before them in October 1st, and they made a recommendation to deny, then it comes to us 2 weeks later. So
Right,
there's
and she
not
did
really
explain
a
that to
way
me.
to go back and continue it till November, once they've made their decision.
Yes, and again, I apologize. That's why I came here today, to address the commissioners directly.
Okay, that's all I have for you. Do y'all have any? Okay.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
So, this is an ongoing issue. I'm in Pine Tree and Weatherburn Woods and the surrounding neighborhoods. And, the code is in place for a reason. And, it is impacting the surrounding neighborhoods that have been there for years. And I can't support, more than the 2 unrelated adults. So I make a motion to deny.
Second. Okay, Commissioner Cupid?
Yes, just a comment made. The applicant shared in their comments that they're looking for the same protection of other homeowners as far as allowing other unrelated adults to live together. And I just want you to know that the students of the university are not necessarily being targeted. This is a county-wide policy. It does have a slanted impact to the population at KSU because, as you shared the population numbers, there's just a lot more students that are at the university now, and it's growing, and the housing there is limited. So I do empathize with your situation. And I remember being a resident and not being on the commissioners and coming here and hearing the hearings when this ordinance was put in place, and it was put in place for a sundry of reasons, and it's having a significant impact. And I just want to let you know I'm sympathetic, but I do recognize that this is a policy that's countywide that we have continued to enforce. I mean, we should be able to hear everything on a case-by-case basis, but as was shared by those in opposition and by the commissioner, the issues in the community that you're in are very unique, and residents have been dealing with those challenges for a long period of time. And, Commissioner Burrow put forward an ordinance that we passed to support student housing, and some of them address the community's concerns because we are trying to do our best to balance those needs. And I know it's imperfect, and my vote today may not necessarily reflect your interest to have a home for multiple students that are unrelated, and for the young man working multiple jobs who goes to work and goes to school. I commend you for that, and I want you to keep that up. But I also have to respect the ordinance of our board and the precedents that we've had as far as protecting this particular community until we find something different or better.
Okay, I got a couple questions. I'm sorry, Commissioner Gamble, do you have anything? Mr. Pickering, go back up here, please. All right. I noticed in 2017, the House was given a code enforcement violation. Was there more than just your family living in the house at that time?
Yes, I signed the affidavit. It was the same exact thing in compliance with the rule. There was an extra person there.
Okay,
So we were in compliance, and they came back and everything was fine. They did not know that there were a brother and sister living there together.
okay, all right. I'm trying to see, when did you apply for this land use permit?
I believe it was
On
back in
October
June.
1st?
I went and got the applications back in June, so. I think
June,
that
okay.
The paperwork went in back
All right,
before
so
October
you
1st.
could have rented the house and just had 2 people in it and been in compliance with the law.
Right, and again, we could have if I didn't have such many people asking over and over and
Well,
over.
I
so-
get that part, I mean, and I feel your pain, all right? I know you're sympathetic to it, but the bottom line here is you knew that the most you could have in there was 2 people, all right?
Yes, but I also visited the planning commission, and they said that since I was applying for the variance, that it would be okay. So I took them at that face value.
Until we had the hearing.
All right. But
Until we had the
I don't
hearing.
even understand how anybody other than this board can give that kind of authorization. And I'm certainly hoping that I'm not hearing that somebody other than this board is allowing people to violate the law.
Mr. Chairman, well,
Look-
I was on those two boards, okay, and I know what is told. People are told that you can do it, however, if the board does not vote in your favor, then you're gonna have to either
Well, I
have
don't
a
know who
move out.
authorizes the board, the planning commission to say that.
Not the planning commission, code enforcement.
Well, how can code enforcement authorize them to
Because they
violate?
have, because when you issue a violation, you're given 30 days to rectify it unless you apply for a land use permit, then you're allowed to keep the condition until you find out the disposition of the case.
Yeah, but that just encourages people to do that, hoping that they're gonna come here and then throw themselves at the mercy of the board. All right? That's gonna happen. And
if
so
I
here we
may-
are, looking like we're hard-hearted people, when in fact, we've been put in this position, first by the state, because they don't build enough dorms for their students, and second of all, by people informally giving consent that you can do this until the answer is no, and it makes us look like we're the bad guys. We're not the bad guys at all, we're just trying to enforce a policy that we passed.
What it says is that code enforcement will not enforce the two unrelated adults living there as long as they have an application for a land use permit until the case is heard. Correct, attorney?
Yes, ma'am. Otherwise, you'd have criminal proceedings that would be ongoing at the same
Right.
time that you'd have an application to allow the very thing that they're being
So-
prosecuted for.
That's why it's allowed, as long as they have an application in for their case to be heard. And then once their case is heard, then the disposition of that case is their result.
Mr. Chairman, that was my understanding, maybe with not that much detail, but that
That's
was
right.
pretty much how it was communicated to me
All right,
as
well,
well.
but here's the problem. If we deny this, one of those I imagine there's 3 men living there now, although it
There
doesn't
are.
matter. Someone in that
There are
house is
three-
gonna have
three
to
people
leave
living
in the
there.
middle of a semester,
They are.
all right?
No.
That's the position we put in here, okay?
Yes.
Unless she makes a motion that she approves it until the end of May of next year to allow them to finish the school year, or till the end of December when they finish the semester, okay? So I just find this very inconvenient, if not very difficult, that we're putting these young men and women in a situation where, let me finish, all right? I'm sympathetic to the students, all right? I was not in that boat at one time. I lived in the dorm my whole 4 years.
Yes.
But I just think that we're being thrown here, we're being made here to make a decision here when there are 3 people that have been made to believe that we're gonna help them out one way or another, even if you applied for it after the fact. And I just find that difficult as a body elected by people who are responsible for enforcing the law, to now being put in a situation where we made that a gray area where we never agreed to that gray area. All right? That's all
I
I'm
do
saying.
understand your position,
Okay,
sir.
so anyway, so I'll turn it back to Commissioner Burrow here. I mean, she's gonna make a motion, and I may.
Sure he has.
I made a motion to deny.
And I second.
What I forgot to do was give you a time frame of when the third unrelated adult has to move out. You can still have 2 unrelated, Matt and one other, but one person is gonna have to go. So are they all, or is anyone graduating?
The next person to graduate is next July. So that is the next time frame. They have to go to summer because graduating in May requires that they have to get through all their classes, and some of them just don't make it in 4 years. So the next person's due to graduate in July.
Of the 3 that are there now?
Yes, of the 3. And at that
That's a
point,
long time.
candidly, I think I have to, I mean, probably what I'm gonna have to do is, if there's not a universal plan put together, working with KSU, I'll sell the house. I don't need the house. It's not for me. It's because I felt strongly for these students. I felt strongly for
Right.
this young man and the other 2 gentlemen that are there, that they needed a safe environment to live in. And I pray that this council to take this seriously and look at a plan for KSU in a larger context.
All right, so what was the time frame you're gonna put on it?
Well, if he's gonna sell the house anyway, I mean, July of next year is a long time for, against code. I would say the end of May, or
Okay.
the end of the semester.
That's the end of the semester.
It is the end of the semester, he's just gonna have to live someplace
The
else for
second's
another
okay
month.
with that.
Or a
Okay,
couple of
so we
months.
have a motion, we have a second.
I said I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Can I get someone from Pine Tree to come back up here for a
Mr.
second?
Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yeah,
while
sure,
we're waiting for
sure,
that?
absolutely.
I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. However, that would apply to someone who didn't know anything about this rule. Okay? You have a gentleman who acknowledges the fact that he knew about the rule and created the situation, and then he just now said that he did it because he felt for the students. I mean, hey, it's commendable that you're looking out for the welfare of the students, but the fact of the matter is he knew what the rule was and put himself in this position. Okay, your comments, fine. If somebody has a house, don't know what the rules are, they find out because of a code violation, that's a little bit different. But in this particular case, he's been here before. We clarified it, the fact that it was a brother and a sister. But, he just told you he did it because he felt for the students. I mean, he willingly knew that he was violating the rules. And I have a problem with that.
Well,
I agree with you on your comments in a different situation, but in this particular situation, he knew what he was doing.
The problem is that we're gonna put 3 students at risk now. Okay, that's the issue. And let's approach this from being compassionate human beings. All right, let's not turn this into some cold, the letter of the law, I understand that there's a reason we have these laws and these guidelines. But the world's not shaped that way sometimes. We have unique circumstances that sometimes come in and they say, this is something worth it. So what I'm asking you is, all right, if the commissioner were to make a suggestion that we help these young men through the end of the school year, all right, but with the informal understanding that there will be no coming back for another LUP, is that something that you believe your community could support?
Yes, we've done that before.
Okay.
Other applicants, we've done the same thing, whether the end of the next semester or the end of the school year.
Right.
But I'd like to elaborate a little bit on that. One of the complications in this is when code enforcement enforces, it generally goes to the magistrate court, okay? A lot of the corporations, then you basically boot this up to state court.
Right.
The problem we've had with that is, one, is state court is 1 year to 2 years. So when it comes to the HOA, to enforce it requires a lawyer. It gets expensive. Second thing is, code enforcement has had issues with the state court of them bouncing the case primarily on a priority basis. Obviously, this has very low priority at the state level. So what happens is you wind up with a 2-year or more time frame before actual action has occurred. This has happened several times with code enforcement. So while I agree with you 100% is we need to take the consideration of the students, we need to add something in front of this that prevents this from continue to happening.
Well, believe me, Commissioner Cupid and I know exactly what you're talking about, because there's a situation we have that we've been working with some apartments in your area, that just, that very fact, that code enforcement does its job, but then because the caseload of the court, sometimes it takes a long time to get it resolved. So trust me, you're falling on sympathetic ears here. But I just, as strong as I feel that we should never convey to somebody the impression that, yeah, take a chance and see what happens. That's no way to run a government, all right? In this case here, I apply the fact that every one of us here is a college graduate, and we've been through those times. I'm sure you probably are too. And I think that the residents that I have met at your HOA are really decent, great human beings and wonderful representatives of Cobb County. I guess we're throwing ourselves on the mercy of you, is that given their circumstances, that's something you could work with the commissioner here, that if we gave them permission, knowing full well that don't come back again with this.
Chairman, I don't think you'd be allowed to do that.
I know that, I understand that.
No, we can't do that.
That's what I said, you can't do that.
I know that, I understand that.
Come back and
Okay, he can come back.
He would come back, all right? They could come back, I understand that, all right? The point I'm making here, though, is that this is a great example of you'd want to apply the law to every single case, all right? But there are some things that the law doesn't take into consideration on. And one of them here is we have 3 students that want to become productive members of society, all right? They've been put in circumstances that they didn't know about, and now, they're going to be the ones that pay the price. And I don't believe that we were elected to be the kind of people that don't take that into consideration and rule appropriately.
Mr. Chairman, how, with what you're saying, how are you going to ever have a situation that's different if this situation, because every single time it's happened in the past, someone does it, code enforcement finds out, they cite them, they file a land use permit, we show up, the students are in school. You're never going to not have that situation unless the board starts enforcing the rule so that people understand and the word gets out there you can't do it. But if the board's action is, yeah, if you do it, you get caught, you come with a land use permit, the board's going to say, okay, you're not going to stop it.
Except that we're not saying it's okay.
Well, you are if you're saying that because the students are in school, they are, every single time we've had this, they are in the middle of a semester.
And Mr. Chairman, I think you're referring to code enforcement saying it's okay while the land use permit is applied for, that they won't enforce the code as long as they're applying, that's okay? Is that what you're referring to?
I'm just saying that there seems to be an understanding that you're not in compliance, all right? And he wasn't cited for this. He was just told he's got to go and apply for a land use permit, all right? After he had already rented out the apartment. And then there was some sort of informal discussion that, the board may or may not approve it, but in the meantime, the students are going to stay in the house because code enforcement can't throw them out. That's a judicial requirement or a board action based on denying the land use permit.
Right.
So it's just one of those, again, it's a gray area too, because code enforcement's doing their job, but in the meantime, we have students living in a house and we know they're in violation, but they're not the ones violating it, the homeowner is. But in process of addressing the issue with the homeowner, we make the students pay the price. That's all I'm saying, all right? There's a human side to this.
Well,
I
that's why
elaborate
we're
on
giving
that?
them till the end of May to
So,
have only 2.
so I appreciate the
Unrelated.
fact that, I appreciate all the points of view here, all right? But I just take the side of, these are 3 students who got caught up in something. And the bigger benefit to society here is these 3 students graduate. All right, knowing full well that all the sides have been, the issue have been brought here to the board, and we'll make our vote based on that.
Can I elaborate on that?
Just briefly.
Briefly, I will try to be briefly. Commissioner Burrell has done very much a lot of work in support of this, but there are several issues which complicate how to take care of your issue, is the fact that how do you prevent this? We've had a lot of problems with an owner basically signing up 2 people and then the students subcontracting or working a deal where 2 or 3 more come in that the owner doesn't even know about. That's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is the reason we ask for the overlay, so to speak, is because most of the time code enforcement can enforce it because they have no rights to ask who's in the house. All they can do is count the number of cars and look at the license plates, which are usually listed in the parent's name. The reason we wanted the overlay is the fact that you could do a registration program, a renter registration, or require corporations to require a business license.
Okay.
So there's accountability.
Well, that's for another forum, though, but I appreciate your comment.
Mr. Chairman, John, I have a request, and that we get with, when the chairman and Commissioner Burrow meet with KSU, that we ask and have community development with the county attorney write the letter, that we ask that in every student's packet that they get the beginning of the school year, that it has a letter explaining the county rules about housing. The fact that you cannot have more than 2 unrelated people in a house, and that if you are found violation of it, you will be cited and somebody will have to move out, so that it is very clear that every student has been notified before they sign a lease, because if we can't deal with the property owners, we can deal with the students. And it can be a simple letter that goes in their packet, the registration packet or whatever for every year, and so then the students will be notified. And then they will have no excuse if they sign or they sublet, like we're hearing, they will have known what the rules were ahead of time.
Can I add a comment to that?
No, we're good, we're good.
Okay.
I think we've discussed this fully. So we have a question, we have a motion that we approve the land use permit until the end of May
Deny it and give them
Oh.
till the end of May to
to move out,
out
okay.
one person.
All right.
They can-
Commissioner Gamble?
They're still allowed to have two unrelated. One person will have to move by the end of May.
Right. Okay, so we have a motion to deny and with the stipulation that by the end of May, they have to be in compliance with the code. All right? And we have a second. Right, all right, all right. So we have a second. So any other questions? So I'll call the question. And it passes 5-0. Okay. Why don't we take a short break? Just a short break, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I mean, 5 minutes. I'll enforce it.
Okay, short break.
Okay, so we're back, whenever you're ready. We're already on? Oh, okay. I'm sitting here giving the 1,000-mile look. People are, what's going on here? Okay, John?
Mr. Chairman and Board, there is one case on today's other business agenda we were going to hear, OB 64. It's been my understanding that the applicant would like to continue the case until your November hearing date. So he's asking that right now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
Yes, and coming out of the break, we would request a continuance of this. We're very close to, we think, resolving several issues, and the additional time will allow that to happen. So we're not in front of you resolving it. We think we can resolve those and bring that to you in a much more resolved manner, and it's just more appropriate to do it that way. And we would make that request and appreciate your consideration.
Okay, so Commissioner Gambrill.
I will support this request.
So you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to support the continuance to the November hearing.
We have a second. Any discussion? And we'll call the question. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. And our last item on today's agenda is land use permit number 20, Open Arms Group Home. Request a land use permit renewal for the purpose of a group home for teenage boys in land lot 1272 of the 19th District. The property is located on the west side of Lindsay Drive, north of Jamestown Court. The applicant is present. Earlier, there are 3 people here opposed. Would anyone want to address the board please come forward to be sworn in?
All right, sir, you have 10 minutes.
My name is James Barnes. I'm the owner of Open Arms Group Home. We have been located, well, we've been open now for 4 years at that same location. We have not had any problem, any concerns. I take DFAT's kids, Matt's kids, and the kids that we take have a lot of issues. But the kids in my home, we have not had any problems or any concerns with those kids. We have a tutor that come in Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays for 2 hours a day. When I first took these kids were behind in school. Their grades were suffering. Because of the tutoring, destruction, and discipline that we have, our kids are passing. We just had a kid to graduate last year from McEachern High School. He's now in Georgia State. The same kid that we first took, he was using drugs, he was running away. We got him, he come to us, we put him on track. He graduated high school at Georgia State. We have 3 other kids at McEachern High School right now that's on track to graduate because of the service that we put in. Once again, we hadn't had any issues, any problems, or any concerns. And to be honest with you, I was caught off guard and shocked to come here this morning to see that 3 individuals from the neighborhood had some concerns, which is fine because we like to have any concern that's in the neighborhood. So at this time, like I said, that's all I can say about the group home. The kids are happy, DFACs are happy. We took a kid that broke plenty of 3, 4, 5 placements, putting holes in walls. He was interned to school when we got him. But because of the structure, the discipline, and the things that we put in place, the kid was at Cooper Middle School, received Student of the Month twice. That kid is now at McEachern High School doing well, passing all his classes, on track to, he's a 9th grader, he's on track to go to the 10th grader. We have 11th grader there and 2 10th grade students there at the home. We have counseling that come in every Thursday for 2 hours. So all the kids are going through counseling. The kids are not in the neighborhood. They're not roaming the streets. You really don't even see the kids unless you see them getting in the van, going on outings to church, out to stores or whatever. So the concerns, I spoke with the gentleman about the concerns. He said the roof, the leaves on the top of the house. I told him that we'll blow the pine straw. The weather's changing. He said that car was parked on the side of the road, which is a tutor car. So that's an easy fix. We'll just have the tutor tell her, just park in the driveway. He showed me a video where there was 4 cars at the house. And like I told him, one of the cars was mine, one is the van that the kids transport in. The other car was one of the staff who was getting ready to get off, and the other vehicle belonged to the staff that was coming in. Now, we did have an issue where a kid ran a couple weeks ago. And anytime a kid run, by law, we have to notify Cobb County. So Cobb County came out to the house, took the report. And that was one of his concerns, that 4 police cars was at the house 2 different days, which is true. Because they have to come out to take a report of the runaway because they put these kids on the National Runaway Registry. But if a kid returns back to the home, which the kid did, I texted the kid was gone 3-4 days with defects. They were trying to get in contact with the kid mom. I had talked to her. We was texting the kid. I texted the kid, asked him, to come back to the home, let's talk. He agreed. He ended up coming back to the house. So we have to call Cobb County again for the Cobb County to come back out to visually put eyes on the kid to take the kid off the registry. That day, 4 cars came. I don't know why 4 cars came out, but 4 cars came out. And to them, that was an issue and a problem. I have no control of how many cars that Cobb County sent out if a kid run away. And in 4 years, we might have had 2 kids to run in 4 years. Them the only other issues that we have had. But like I shared with him, I have no control over how many cars Cobb County sent out. But they do have to come out to make sure that kid is back in the home to take that kid off the registry. To make a long story short, the kid ended up going back home with mom. So at this point, if those are the only concerns that they're having, we can have the staff depart, one of the staff part in the yard. To them, that was a concern. So, easy fix. I just tell staff don't park in the yard because the driveway is long enough for the staff to park into the driveway. I just had the staff to park into the driveway along with the tutor because there's only one staff there during the day with the kids in that staff vehicle in the staff van. So there's no traffic. There's nobody, picking nobody up or dropping, stuff off at the home. There's no issues at the home. So at this point, I'm here to just address the concerns that they have.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Anyone else in support? Okay, those in opposition? You have 10 minutes.
Chairman, I would say for the speakers, there's a clock that's right beside you. You're able to monitor your time, and it's 10 minutes combined.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I believe it's still morning. My name's William Holmes. I live in the area. My dad, I grew up on the street, Lindsay Drive, since 1976. I did speak with the gentleman. Everything he said is pretty much what we discussed. The issue is this is obviously a commercial entity bringing these issues into our community, into our residential neighborhood. Before the blue sign went up in the yard, we had no idea what was going on at that house, but we did see police activity there. We do have people that park in the road on a blind curve, causing us to take the wrong side of the road in the blind curve. We do have, he said, a staff member, he knew exactly who it was, who parks in the front yard on the grass every time he's at work. These are things that, and like you said, I'm glad that the kids got help, that he's helped, but when they come there, he admitted they come with drug problems, they come with this problem, they come with that problem. All this is being imported into our community, and we don't like it. I mean, I'm not a professional at this. I've never been to one of these things. I voted for one of y'all, never even knew the face until today. So I really, very unprofessional in the presentation, just can tell you what the concerns are.
Okay, the only question I have is, they had to have applied for this permit before, so a similar sign would have gone up.
Well, let me tell you about the sign, and I brought these concerns up at the shopping center that the county took over where the zoning is, when I went to go get information on what court date do we come to. The sign was placed perpendicular to the mailbox. The elevation of the land and the way the road rides in there, it's very unnoticeable. And also the staff member parks his car obstructing the sign. I've got video and pictures of this. And who's to know that that's not what happened the last time, why nobody noticed it before? I really don't know. All I can do is speculate on that and tell you the problems I had noticing the sign this time. And there have been the issues. The house, he said, was just painted. It's one of the more unkempt houses in the neighborhood. It's one of those where the neighbor may cut the yard once every 2 months instead of like other neighbors that keep their yards very well in the neighborhood. Things of that nature. Things that we could take to zoning, and I would have never need to complain or to code enforcement, but I kind of want, you stick to your own, until I saw this blue sign and I realized, hey, this is not just another homeowner. This is a commercial venture, and this man doesn't even live there. He's bringing these problems into our community, and that's just basically what we're stating opposition about.
Okay, sir.
And I'll yield to my dad, Virgil Holmes. I believe he wanted to speak.
Sure.
Good morning, Commissioners, and my name is Virgil Raymond Holmes. I've been living in 4581 Lindsay Drive since 1976. I'm very proud of my community, which is a residential community, okay? Has no businesses operating like this particular business. I didn't know nothing about this home until this past week, my son told me. And I go past that area, God knows, all the time, and I never seen a sign. And I was shocked that we're having children injected into my residential community, to where my great-grandson lives with Tom over here. My granddaughter lives down at the end of the street within 100 yards or less of where this house is at. We don't, I understand these kids have problems. I understand that. I don't understand why they was put into my neighborhood. I understand there's another home somewhere in the neighborhood doing the same thing. I also heard, I don't know whether it's true or not, but there was another home down at the end of the street where the police had to evacuate people out of there. This is alleged that there was sex trafficking going on for kids going down there. We don't need that kind of crime, that kind of input into the area problem. We haven't done anything to deserve this. It is a very nice upkeep home site that I live in. I keep my house up immaculately. On the other hand, that particular house that he's talking about, he is not a resident there. He doesn't run that place. He's not there every day. He has no idea, other than what his staff tells him what's going on there. He takes very lightly about the place looking like someone that doesn't live there, okay? And this is bringing down the value of my home, and I'm being told I've got to put up with it. I don't deserve that. I've raised 2 families out of my house, and I'm proud of every one of them. I'm proud of my oldest son, William. I know y'all all have families. You're proud of your neighborhood. I'm not proud of his house. I'm not proud of what's going on and injected into my neighborhood, like we're the trash of Powder Springs or something. We're not. We're good people. We're good neighbors. We have black and we have whites in our neighborhood. It's not one way or the other. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with my county commissioners that are elected officials injecting homes like that into the neighborhood, and exposing other children to the problems that they are bringing into the neighborhood. And they've got no parents there whatsoever. I mean, they've got staff. How many in here was raised by staff? You can imagine the difference in a parent raising children in a neighborhood than a staff of people that no telling what all has happened to them that got them put in that position. So I'm pleading for my community. And I would,
Just be aware of that.
okay. He was telling me to be aware of the time. That's my son. He's looking after me.
You have plenty of time, sir.
Yeah. But I would like for each one of you commissioners to think about your neighborhood. Think about where you live. You know, think back in time when you had kids and how protective you was of those children. Think about your house that you have today, how protective you are about the value of your home, the pride that you have in your neighborhood, and to know that this is going on by someone that doesn't even live in the neighborhood, that is making money off of this, a commercial enterprise. And I do have right at 2 minutes left over, but I just want you to think about that. I am totally against it. There is nobody in that neighborhood that's been living there longer than me. There's a number of different homes that people have left and they're renting out, and I oppose that big time. I think y'all seriously need to look at some kind of county-wide law to take care of that problem. There's so many people that are not residents, that are out of state. They have no pride in the neighborhood. They got no dog in the fight, okay? But yet this is allowed to go unchecked. I can't understand why there can't be some kind of ordinance. Or if anything else, make money off of it. If somebody wants to rent a house, that's fine. We're going to charge you 10% of whatever you rent it for goes to the county. And we'll only allow a certain percentage of an area that would allow renters. This is just, to me, it's just something that's been put on us that we don't deserve as citizens. That's all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
May I say something?
No. Okay, Commissioner Cupid. If Commissioner Cupid calls you back up, you'll give the podium, but we have a process here. So I'll turn the floor to Commissioner Cupid.
I'm going to talk a little bit about process, and then I'll get into the merits of the matter. With respect to process, this matter was put on consent for today. It was put on consent because we have not had any code action at this home or anyone file any complaint about the home. This home came up for approval to the board 4 years ago to have the opportunity to be zoned there. We moved forward and we have reapproved this permit 2 years ago because, again, no code action, no complaints. The way the land use permit is, you have to renew it at a maximum of 24 months. So every 2 years, the land use permit comes before the board for consideration. And it's helpful to have that timeline. It could be lessened. It doesn't have to necessarily be 24 months. But the 24-month time period allows us to review what activity is going on and see if this is a use that we should continue to permit there, because a land use permit is asking for something unique, special, different than what is generally equated with what goes on in a single-family home. So this is why the applicant has to continue to come back forward, and every 2 years we'll have to put that sign up to give the community notice that this is going on, and we'll have this hearing. This matter was put on consent again because there was no opposition. However, anytime someone comes for a case, and if there's anyone that stands up in opposition, we can remove that matter from consent because there's no longer consent. There's someone in opposition. So an applicant should always be prepared to hear their case. And I don't want my comments with respect to another case to color this one. I had some concerns about about that case in particular, not that it was removed off consent, but any matter can be removed off consent when anyone comes in opposition, or if a board member has any concerns about that matter. when I first came on board in 2013, probably one of my first few zoning hearings with respect to a group home in the district had a lot of challenges. Police calls, a lot of complaints, code actions, police records. We ended up denying that permit. There was another incident with the group home that had concerns. And every time I won't say every time, a lot of times when we had applications come before the board, at least I know I had a lot of concerns around group homes because I know they provide a different element in a community and can provide some challenges if that home is not run in a way that it can be under the radar of that community. With one of the homes, they had a lot of people running away. There were the young people going into other people's yards. It was very obvious to the community that that there were challenges with this home. Every time I've had a group home application, I always have some letter of, or some email, or someone showing up in opposition. Everyone except for this one. I was actually shocked. But instead of hearing opposition, because I think I went around the home and I talked to some people, there was actually people that either didn't know or were in support. And that kind of took me off guard because I've never had a case where neighbors are actually in support of a group home. So it made it easier to approve this. And again, when it came back before us 2 years ago, I didn't get any emails of support, but I didn't hear from anyone in opposition. And typically, when we have sites that have a land use permit and the community gets used to them being there, it just becomes a matter of process for them to come in and ask for that land use permit. But again, an opportunity for us to provide some review of this matter. So, knowing that there are concerns in the community, and I want to make sure that I'm weighing your concerns as much as I've weighed the concerns when we've had anyone else oppose a group home. I'm hearing some very specific issues going on with the property that I would like to address, and then I'm hearing some general broad issues. I'm going to try to address those, but then I want to address maybe a broader policy issue. Well, let me address the broader policy issue first. For a group home, it's not the county policy, but it's state policy that a group home can be operated within the state without it having to become permitted if there are 4 adults or less, I believe. Is that?
Commissioner Cupid, the county code does allow group homes in every residential district with a maximum of 4 residents.
Okay.
So this application is for 6 residents, so they're adding 2 more over code.
Yes,
And that's
but
really what
I'm
this
just
is
saying
about.
for group homes in general, if it's 4 or less, do they need to come before us for a permit?
4 or less, no.
So there was a question about we're allowing these to operate in a community. If it's 4 or less, we don't have, our policy is set up in such a way, and I thought it was state, but maybe I'm confusing with another policy.
No, with the county code, it's a use by right for 4 or less for a group home.
So it's a use by right. So you said there may be multiple of these in your community. Some of them may not have come back before us because they may have 4 or less. Now, if you suspect they do have more and we haven't heard from them, I do encourage you to let us know those addresses so we can make sure that they are being run properly, that they have proper permits, or that we let them know this process to get that. So we are not in a position where we go injecting these into the community. If someone wants to have one in Cobb County with 4 adults or less, they can do so. The permit today is not to have a group home in general, it's to have a group home that has more than 4 people in it. And from what I understand, there's 6 young adults that are in the home, all under the age of 18, I believe, all under the age of 18. I'm sure there's some policy reasons behind that, but I'll have to go look into what those policy issues are as to why that's being supported. Now, there are comments made that we didn't know this was there. until we saw the signs up. That makes me want to believe that this group home has been operating similar, well, this group home is operating where its element of being a group home wasn't known to the community, which is what would be desirable. These are in a community in such a way that they are not impacting or negatively impacting or impairing a community. But from what I'm hearing from your concerns, there has been some negative impact, right? So those are what I want to address today, and address with the applicant, so we can make sure that these could be addressed should this be approved. So if the applicant can come up, I want to talk through some of these things. Okay. I noticed in your application, there are 6 employees that
Yes,
are,
yes, ma'am.
and do they all work separately, or do you ever have more than one employee on site at the same time?
They all work separately.
Okay. Could there ever be some shift overlap where people are coming in and out, that there may be more than one employee there to talk about what's been going on during their shift?
Well, how it's set up, the shift is from 8 to 4, 4 to 12, 12 to 8.
Okay.
And one staff works. Once the other staff come in, they give a breakdown of what happened that shift, and it's also a logbook that they log on what happened during that shift because it's required by the state. So
Okay.
there's always just one staff there. There's never 2 staff there at the same time.
There's always one staff there, but you said 2 of them may talk about what happened in the prior
Well,
shift.
in the change of shifts.
In the change of shifts, yes, but primarily there's one, but sometimes there's 2. I only refer to that because I think one of the things that made these residents take particular notice to the site was the number of vehicles and how they were being parked. And you said that you could address that by having them park in the driveway, but the parking on the grass is something, again, that's probably not characteristic of other members that live in that. Maybe it is, but it's something that caught their attention. How would you address parking?
Well, the tutor parks on the street, and I don't know why, but I mean, that's an easy fix. We just tell the park in the driveway. You park 6, 7 cars in the driveway. It's a long driveway. I don't know why that particular staff parks in the grass. That can be addressed as well. He'll just start parking in the driveway as well, because the only vehicles there is the staff vehicle and the van vehicle, and my vehicle when I'm there, because I go there every day when I get off work. I work at Atlanta Municipal Court where I supervise the program. So I go there every day and meet with the kids every day, and we talk about what happened, at school, what's going on, and we talk about life. So I'm there every day.
Okay.
So I can just have them park. I mean, I have the tutor park in the driveway, and I tell my staff going forward that he needs to park in the driveway and not on the grass.
Yes, because for our county code is that you're supposed to park on a hardened surface.
Yes,
So
that's
not on the grass. And also, speaking of grass, there were some concerns about how that grass is being maintained on the property.
Man, that is far from the truth. The state come out every day, they inspect the house. And one thing, we can't have objects in the yard has to be cut. We have a lawnmower, weed eater, and blower. And one of the kids' chores is to make sure that driveway and the front porch is clean. So they blow every day. So that's far from the truth. The yard get cut in the summertime every other week.
Okay.
So that's far from the truth, what he's saying.
Okay. Just know that that's something that they shared. So if there's any additional attention that's needed, just know that that's a sensitive matter, and also know that there's a county code that prohibits grass from being over 12 inches. So that's something you want to be aware of. Staff and the grass and maintenance of the yard seem to be, not staff, parking seems to be a primary issue in grass. And then there's just an overall general element of whether or not these type of people should be in the community.
When you say these type of people, I mean, we're talking about young kids. And this is my community too. I mean, I've been in that community for 20 years. I bought that house 20 years ago.
Do you live on Lindsay Drive?
I don't live on Lindsay Drive now because I'm not allowed to live in the house with the kids.
Okay, where do you?
I live in Powder Springs as well, right over by McEachern High School.
Oh, okay, so you do live in that area.
I live in Powder Springs, yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, once again, these are kids they're not breaking in anybody's home. They're not running up and down the street. They made positive change. They're in school. They're passing all their classes. Yes, they have challenges, but even some of our own kids have challenges.
I agree.
So, but at the end of the day, these kids are doing a lot better than what they was. Uh, I can't ask for nothing else from no kids. I mean, anything we ask them to do, they doing.
Yeah.
The state is pleased, shocked, to be honest with you. They are shocked that those kids are thriving. And I've been working with kids over 20 years, and God has blessed me to be able to turn the worst of the worst kids around. And for somebody to come and say, well, you know, these type kids in our neighborhood, these kids go to the bus stop every day with every other kid in that neighborhood, and they friends with the kids in the neighborhood. They catch the bus to school, they catch the bus home from school. They walk from the top of the street by themselves down to the house, come in the house. There has been no issues, no concerns. Before I opened that home up, we had a meeting. We put a flyer, Mr. Galt would tell you the same thing.
I think that's what I remember, why there was actually
we had a
positive
meeting.
support. Yeah.
We put a flyer on everybody's mailbox. They just didn't come to the meeting. Half the neighborhood came to the meeting. They was in support. And if you go over there right now, they will be in support of that home because, once again, the home has not changed. The community is still a nice community. It's still quiet. There's no issues, no problems, no concerns. But any concerns that they have, we will address. That's not a problem. If that's the only problem, just the cars and the parking in the driveway and the yard, with the yard stay cut, that's not a problem. We'll deal with that. We'll make sure that is taken care of.
Okay. If I can make a suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
Is as you had the open house before you got started, that maybe that's something you consider where you just have some type of meeting with the community as to hear if there's any feedback from them, since this is a unique operation in their community. Sometimes I've done that for other businesses. You know, it may open up a door for you to get these concerns prior to a hearing like this. That's a suggestion. This is the first time, again, I've heard from someone in opposition, and I want to be sensitive to that. But I also want to be very sensitive to the work that you're doing, and I commend you for doing the work that you do. And I want to believe that the young people that you're working with from DFACS can probably have a better chance of doing well if they are in a home environment than being in an institutional environment. And there's just this balance of, if putting them in a home environment, how do we not, again, negatively impact that community that they're in, knowing that this is probably a better environment. This land use permit, we typically come back, we renew every 2 years. I'm leaning towards decreasing that just because of these concerns here and still allowing it to move forward, but just knowing that this is the first time I'm hearing these and that you have a path forward to address these things. I would like to approve this today and just have you come back and we'll get an update on how these concerns are being addressed and give these residents an opportunity again to, now that they know you're there, they can hopefully feel free to communicate with you outside of this setting if there are any other concerns. But sure, before I share my motion, though, I'm open to hearing from anyone in the board. But that's where I'm leaning towards renewing and just having a little bit of a tighter time period so we can hear if there's any ongoing issues with these matters.
Mr. Burrow.
Just a couple questions. When this was originally approved for a 2-year period, were there 6 residents?
I believe so, because if it was 4, they would have had
You've had 6 the whole time?
Had 6 the whole time since
Okay.
it's been open.
So it's not an increase or anything, it's just a renewal for what's already existing.
Yeah.
And then the other question I had is, under staff analysis for transportation on page, my book, 352, number 2 says parking and traffic considerations. I don't know if this was a stipulation from the previous LUP, but it says the applicant will continue to utilize the driveway to park no more than 2 cars on the property. So if you're gonna allow 4 cars, I guess that needs to be removed if it was a previous step.
I don't have the original application.
No, it's under staff analysis.
Yes, I see the staff analysis, but I can't refer back. I see the staff analysis here. I
Oh.
have it. I just can't go back to that, but
Was that a prior step from the original land use permit, John? Or is that just a staff recommendation for now?
It was a condition in the previous land use permits that they park in the driveway, not on the right of way.
Okay, so,
did you have the limitation of 2 cars?
Well, normally it's 2 cars parked there, but when the counselor comes, she parks there for 2 hours, park at home for 2 hours, do counseling, she leave. I come every day, you know, and I'm there for probably about 2 hours, talking with the kids, see if they need anything, and then I'm gone. But normally it's only 2 vehicles that are staff in the van.
In the van, so that's 3 at least, and if the tutor comes, that's
Yeah.
4. So it may be worthwhile to modify that to 4, just so we have the language in here reflecting actuality of what's gonna take place on the property.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Joanne. Yeah. Yes, and it says stay here, the applicant will continue to utilize the driveway, so just emphasize the driveway.
you need to change that to 4.
Yep. Are there any other comments? Okay.
And I would support the 1 year as well, and then come back and updates.
So I move that we approve land use permit 20, subject to planning comments and recommendations, and also modifying the staff analysis comment on page 352, number 2, where it states the applicant will continue to utilize the driveway to park no more than, and modify that to 4 cars at the property. Yeah.
As long as all the cars are parked on the driveway, then the number shouldn't matter that much. It's gonna be between 2 and 4, it sounds like, at varying times.
Okay, and I appreciate you saying that. We can take that off, because if you do have something incidental where somebody's overlaps or something happens, I prefer we just put the applicant will continue to utilize the driveway for parking. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, John, for that recommendation.
Okay, do we have a second?
And I want to limit the land use permit for 12 months. Yep.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Any further discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0. With that, we're adjourned.